Jay,
Damn, even footing.
yeah, how's it going?
I'm not bad, thank you. How are you?
I am doing okay. I killed a hippo.
Well
Um,
done.
yeah, I
Congratulations, I
know.
think.
I'm glad this isn't like a charity stream for like PETA or whatever, because
God, could you imagine?
they would have some choice things to say. Um,
Oh, well,
is
they'd have
there?
hated the Pokemon talk.
Yeah, they would. So I was wondering if you would do me the honor of maybe introducing yourself to chat, who, for whatever reason, they might not know who you are. I don't know why they wouldn't, but just
Yeah,
in
but it would
case.
be very rude of them to not know who I am. Just
Exactly.
putting it out there. No, my name is Jay. I am a content creator on Twitch. I've been here since, well, I've been lurking in the shadow since about 2014, but started making content during the pandemic, mid 2020, just like everyone else, I think. Um, so I also do a lot of charity fundraising on Twitch as well. So I believe we met on a fundraiser.
We did.
We did indeed.
I think it was Fall Guys we were playing.
It was Among Us, and
Well, oh, it was. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
I remember that it was Among Us because I was a wee babby streamer, and am I allowed to say that? I feel like I'm not.
It's fine.
And I got myself into a situation where I was causing a fight between Jesse Cox and Ellen from Outside Xbox, who I had never met or spoken to before.
Yep.
But I was not losing.
It's funny how that works, isn't it? It's like, yeah, just you turn up and you just cause trouble. That's what it is.
I don't have a lot of friends, but I win a lot, so it's fine.
Hey, that's fine. You don't need friends when you're a champion.
Exactly. Who needs friends are for losers? I win. Yeah. So, and other than that, I work in the charity sector. So I work in a fundraising capacity for international development charity as well.
Nice.
So yeah, that's me. I'm very anxious. I'm very angry, and I'm very awkward. So that's the AAA of Twitch gaming with their TV.
I thought you were about to say I'm very anxious and I'm very angry at you.
Oh God, no! This is just everything.
That is very fair. So I mean, like, I suppose my icebreaker question that everyone is yelling at me to do, because I've missed several. What's something you're particularly proud of doing this year, and what is something that you would like to do next year?
This is hard because I am riddled with imposter syndrome. But God, what am I proud of this year? I think genuinely getting my job in the charity sector, and making moves into doing something that I really am passionate and care a lot about, as like a career, because I'm one of those people that like studied a like vaguely statistics based degree at uni, and then just kind of fell out and like rolled through corporate land for like 5 years, and I was like absolutely fucking miserable.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I was working in corporate offices, doing just nonsense work that never really produces anything of value, but is somehow really important.
Yep.
But all it's doing is making someone rich. So I quit that last year, and then this year, I got another job earlier in the year, and that was just like, it was for a company that I really liked, but again, just couldn't motivate myself to like get up in the morning when the result of what I was doing was just make some rich person even richer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I decided charity sector time, and it's probably the best thing I've ever done, because I've been in my current role for about 3 months, and I'm happier than I've ever been in any role ever.
Fantastic. No, that's brilliant. You found your calling.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so like, let's take a wee bit on that, because, like, obviously it's like, I mean, would you say that the skills that you've developed from being a content creator and streamer, particularly doing charity streams, helped you get the job that you're in just now?
100%. So the fundraising team that I'm in, is specifically worked with the gaming industry. So we specifically like have partnerships with video game studios, and we run events on Twitch and that sort of thing. So my experience, as a charity fundraiser on Twitch and as a content creator was like unbelievably exciting to the people that hired me, because they're both very like sort of like corporate in their
Mm.
experience, and like with experience in like video game industry and entertainment industry. So this idea that there's a content creator out there that wants to work for charity and wants to help them was quite exciting for them.
No,
And yeah,
that's
I don't think I'd have landed the job without the experience that I'd got from the last 2.5 years.
yeah, no, that's it's like I feel like me and Luke were talking earlier about there's kind of like a content creator to like a indie dev pipeline, but I also think there's a separate pipeline that also goes towards like the amount of kind of transferable skills that you learn from like doing particularly streaming as well, because you like you said that you've kind of joined like a specific gaming team there,
Yeah.
like at your work. So like what like was that in existence before you arrived? Like, I mean, I imagine a lot of your experience from like what you would kind of assume is just common knowledge being a streamer, because your way around OBS and all the rest of it. But like,
Yeah.
to an organization that maybe doesn't know much about that and has never really tried it, like it might look like you're you're amazing, which you are, of course. But like at the same time,
thanks.
it's like you're able to kind of like very quickly add a lot of value just by doing what you normally do.
Yeah. So it has definitely been a learning experience for me. The team that I'm in, like they have like historically done a lot of work with content creators over the last like 3 years or so. But they've never had a content creator inside. And I think the one thing that I can offer that's most valuable to them is, God, I sound like I'm in a job interview now.
That's
but
okay. You are.
just like, oh shit.
You're
no.
hired.
Yes. Another mediocre white person hired into a role they're not qualified for. Woo!
Oh, come on.
No, I think the main thing that I bring is just kind of understanding of what's going on the other side. So like, as someone who does do a lot of charity fundraising, and as someone who streams on Twitch like every week,
Yeah.
and has done for nearly 3 years, 2.5 years, I know when it's not a good time to do outreach to ask people if they want to do fundraisers. I understand like that we're going to be competing with video game studios for time. Other charities are in the space as well, and in those situations, that's kind of when I'm like, hey, I'm great at like organizing shit because my previous job titles had the word planner in them. So let's use me in another way. So I think just that kind of like knowledge is not something that people are necessarily
I think like
wouldn't necessarily have available to them.
yeah, no, I think it's interesting because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of people who like just being aware because you're in the space. Like, I mean, I've seen so many bad examples. Like, it's quite funny. I've like obviously following a lot of like gaming creators and journalists and stuff. You see some really terrible examples of like bad outreach. So you kind of instinctively know like this is not an email that I would want to receive. Like
Exactly that.
Like I've seen some really like atrocious ones where someone's been like following up with like really old memes as a kind of like, you didn't respond to my last email.
I literally had those emails this week.
Oh, and
I got like 4 of them in a row, and it was horrendous.
Oh, it makes me want to like kind of like crawl out my skin. It's horrible. Like, it's horrible to. But then again, is that? It almost seems like it's been like sold to them by some sort of like MBA
They've been on some sort of course, or like some like goddamn terrible hyper masculine sales military shit. Like that's the vibe it gives me. It's just like you have no idea how to like. You've spent a lot of money for someone to teach you how to not seem like a real person.
Yeah,
because
no, so it's Fiona's mentioned in chat, who was speaking earlier, like this is what I was talking about with the corporate training stuff, and it's like the immediate kind of like red flags for people that are just like, I don't want to do anything with you guys. And like, unfortunately, sometimes it like sometimes I want to like email back and kind of like coach them a little bit, being like, you really don't want to send this to someone, because like it's like sometimes it's super antagonizing as well. Sometimes it's not even like positive, you know.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, genuinely, is to leave a positive impression. Because,
Yeah.
if I'm doing an outreach thing to streamers
Mhm.
for an event, I know that 90% of those emails probably just aren't even going to get read.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just like basic decency when someone comes back and is like, "Sorry, I'm not interested this time," or "Sorry, I don't have the capacity right now," or whatever. It's just like just say like, "Thank you for your time." Like,
Yeah.
thank you for reading it. Thank you for thinking about it. Like, it's because that's how you like build relationships. It's not by sending creepy, hyper aggressive sales pitch emails.
Yeah, I
Um,
just they're like they're nauseating to read. They're like
yeah.
they're
Oh god, they're so bad. They are so uncomfortably bad.
yeah, yeah. I mean the I'm trying to think of one of the ones that had like semi recently, and I think it was just a very like it was just very like, oh, we expect you to do this, and it was like it was trying to be like pally in like a kind of commanding way, which just came across as like utterly condescending. You're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
um,
I think the worst one that I've had recently is just oh well, ADHD happened and I can't even remember where the sentence was going. Shitty outreach. There we go. Um, I, I had basically it was like the fifth or sixth email, and it was just they basically said like if you're not responding, it's because you don't want to know about this thing, or you wanted to know about this thing but you forgot, or you're a meth dealer. And I was like, dude,
what
like
the
this is
hell?
this has come to like a work email.
Yeah,
Like this is a
jeez.
charity, man. Like why are you saying I'm too busy running a meth lab? Like come on. This is just
Yeah.
awful.
But then again, it's like it's definitely been like sold on some sort of corporate training course,
Oh,
right? It's
yeah.
like,
Some
oh
grifter, some grifter
yeah,
is running a course, like
you've
absolutely chewing through people's money,
yeah.
thinking that they're buying into this like super like mega psychologically backed training course. It's like no,
No.
this absolute lad just stolen your money, mate. Like,
Yeah. Banro Kialak in chat saying is it the work version of negging? Which yes, it is.
yes, it
That's
is.
that's that's very true. Um,
Incredible.
so on moving on to I
Mhm.
suppose more to do with the charity what that we're
Yes.
raising money for today. So again, thanks very much for coming on. We've kind of been asking everyone this question, and it's kind of like evolved, and it's had many a diversion and different angle and different interpretation. So interpret it however you like. Uh, I'll accept your answer regardless. But
Excellent. Nice ominous. Let's go.
on the side of like tailored support for like specific groups of people, like an LGBT charity, like what do you think's like the kind of value of that?
Um, I think specifically when it comes to Galop, something that I like. Galop is a really like special charity to me. I haven't necessarily used the services myself, though I would have had I known about it 10 years ago, maybe.
Mm.
Um, but I know a lot of people that have been helped by Galop. And I think especially when it comes to domestic violence in like queer relationships,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of modern in quotation marks and available sort of shelters and services don't really know what to do when you're in a situation where both people in an abusive relationship are trying to access the same service and they're the same gender, because like ordinarily
Mm.
those services, like how are they to know necessarily?
Yeah.
It's just not built for to deal with that kind of thing. And where organizations like Gallup are so important is that their mission statement is specifically helping a group of people whose needs are not already being met.
Mm.
Um, and it's kind of like the real deep thoughts I have a lot about charity, because I spend a lot of time alone in my room thinking about things like this. Um,
That's fair.
it's just yeah, which is just like charities shouldn't have to exist.
Yeah.
Like everything that they do should be provided by the state, right? Old school socialist, I'll put my hands up.
That's more
Or,
than
or better
fine.
yet, Yeah,
You're amongst friends here.
yeah, or better yet, like they shouldn't be needed.
Yeah.
But it's so important that organizations are out there offering like tailored support for marginalized people.
Mm.
Um, because like I said, like as someone who like potentially would have needed well did need that service, I didn't get it because I didn't know where to go. Because of the area I lived in had nothing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think it's super important to make it as like publicly available as possible that these services do exist. And you can get help like regardless of who you are for your specific thing and regardless of where you are as well.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's like it's a really good point, and we actually learned some really interesting kind of history about Gallup that's existed for way longer
mm,
than I'd than I'd thought. But it was kind of born out of an answer to the police not doing too much when it
yeah.
came to when it came to the LGBT community in regards to like abuse and violence, and
Mhm.
it like I think that for quite a lot of um like LGBT like charities and support organization and things like that, it's they've kind of like they've become more like professional over time, but they were kind of born out of necessity, and it's like community led,
Yeah.
which is why like I'd say for a lot of the LGBT charities that like I've done charity streams for and who I've like spoken with, like a lot of it is very it's still community led. It's still community led at its heart. It doesn't have like the maybe slightly more corporate sheen
Mm.
that some like kind of bigger American charities that you hear about, like Peter.
Yeah. Oh god, I had a thought. ADHD has happened again. Yes, I've got it. I've got it back. This is two in one day. This is good. I, my general experience of like doing outreach, just outreach is the wrong word, but like contacting charities,
Mhm.
that I want to fundraise for. My general sort of experience is that the ones that started with roots in activism, I nearly said Activision then. The ones with their root in
Oh God,
activism,
no.
I know, are the better organizations, just because most of them haven't lost that kind
Mm.
of that sense of purpose. Um, and yeah, like Gallup is born out of a need because LGBT people were being discriminated against, and they were in a system that was openly hostile to them, and we kind of still are.
Mm.
We've had some good years of development, and then the last six have been fucking awful,
Yeah.
like really really bad. So it's like now more than ever, like these organizations with roots in activism they need to be here for us because like our sort of like conventional methods of support are slipping away, it feels like.
Yeah. No, that's is it has definitely like even just being like I'd say kind of more outside spectator. I like
Hmm.
obviously like from an ally perspective, I try and stand up as much as I can, but I could probably do a bit better in that regard. Um, but like it's been it's just constant, and I'd be like it's something that's always kind of like fucked me off a little bit because it's just like I feel like to exist as an LGBT person like online, like you're just constantly having to fucking justify your existence in a way that like I'll never understand that. Like I'll
Hmm.
never understand how it is to like receive that, but like it just must be fucking mentally exhausting in a way that it's like it like I'm gonna describe it in like computer terms, but it's just it's like it's using background processing power that no one like fucking has the energy
Yeah,
for, But it occupies that like bit in your mind that like that's where you've got to just always have to like allow a little bit.
it is genuinely there are some really 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 incredible things about being queer, and there are some really incredible things about the queer community, but existing online does not really exist in either of those realms as a
Mm.
really positive thing. It's like it can be utterly depressing because like, I've been someone who's like throughout my whole life always been very very active on social media, and in the last couple of weeks I've had to like step away and like delete apps from my phone, um, just because of like what happened in Colorado a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was suddenly everywhere, and when an event like that happens, which is like the second one of the year specifically targeting LGBT people that I'm aware of. Because of there was a similar event in Oslo in the summer. But it's just like a constant reminder that there are people out there that want to hurt me because of who I am, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like that feeling of like the places that I'm supposed to feel safe may not be the safe places for me. And it's fucking terrifying. Like it's so traumatic as well, like to just be constantly reminded of that. But at the same time, places like Twitch and and services like Discord have been unbelievably invaluable to like the like queer solidarity in like physical and online spaces over the last, like, certainly in the, like, 2020 2021, the height of the pandemic,
It's kind
and
of,
even now
yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, it's a kind of double-edged sword in social media, because like it connects so many like great communities. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you have your own Discord, I've got mine, and like that, like, because that's a very tailored space that you can establish like proper boundaries and stuff on. Like that's great. The moment you kind of like dip your head out the door just to see what's going on, it can be a kind of endless barrage of shit.
Yeah, it can. And
Which
there are days where I really want to fight back, and I do, and I get angry, and I shout, and I like post the activism shit, and I like go and donate to a charity or
yeah,
whatever. But like some days I'm just like, no, I'm gonna sit in a blanket and I'm gonna hide because that's all
yeah.
I have the energy for today.
I
Like,
think like that's it's a perfectly normal way to look at it. To
yeah,
be honest, like it's like some like you're not gonna like no one's gonna get anywhere if they look online all day and just have to like see shit after shit, you know, like
yeah,
see all the crappy stuff, because no one really enjoys doing that. And I think it's like we've mentioned doom scrolling a couple of times on the stream, where
mm,
it's like it can be really easy to fall into that trap of like the world looking incredibly bleak. And I suppose
hmm,
that's kind of like what, you know, like events and like charity stuff and all the rest of it, that can kind of like help folk. I think that's always something that's quite nice, but it, like day in day out, it can be extremely difficult. So like I get where you're.
yeah. But it is like that. There's a lot of helpful like mental processes that can come from like just being in a place
Yeah.
and just chatting about the shit that you have to experience, like, and like just talking to people that have similar experiences can be like so like rejuvenating, because that there's always kind of a sense, or like certainly I have always had that sort of like feeling, less so more recently, but just
Mm.
of like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And I think that's something that a lot of queer people across the whole community, regardless of sort of like sexuality, gender identity, I think that's something that everyone has felt at least once in their life, if not repeatedly. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, just speaking with people that in digital space or physical space that have had that shared experience makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really can make that difference. Just like being able to like connect with people who, you know, whether they've like, to be honest, I think it's one of the things about the pandemic that I think everyone adapted to really well, because people realized it's like, oh shit, we can't meet with people like we normally would.
Yeah.
Um, so like, yeah, I've got. I feel like I have way more online friends than I do physical friends.
Oh, same.
Because it's like and the thing is like they're like you're friends with people on the other side of the world now, which like sometimes mean like it makes it even harder, because you can never really fully withdraw from like being online, because you've
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's tons of shit online, but there's also your support network online as well, and it becomes this like weird balancing game that's a pain in the arse to try and get right.
It
Um,
is, and there are certain platforms as well that are a bit easier. Like
yeah.
Twitter is just an absolute hellscape,
Yep.
and like even before current Twitter events, it was a hellscape,
Yeah.
and it will always be a hellscape. But like I don't even have Facebook because I just won't entertain it. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, like Facebook's. To be fair, I've not like. I don't look at Facebook enough to go like to even like dig anywhere that would be horrible. But yeah, I
Yeah.
can see why you wouldn't want to entertain Facebook because it's
Y-
yeah, it's Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. And for all of its flaws, Twitch are, I think, doing one of the better jobs out of all of the sort of social media platforms out there
But
to make the space like we can do this on Twitch, and like
yeah,
I've been like dipping in and out all day, and I've not seen. I'm sure there have been like some like
no,
shit posty things
there's
posted in chat, but
no,
like
there's like it's weirdly been really good, and to be honest, that's been my experience in all of the charity streams I've had. Obviously, there's like Twitch went through that period of like the hate raids and stuff, particularly towards like again though I'm coming at it from a position of like I'm a straight white cis guy, and
yeah,
there are probably people who would not be searching the tags that I have in my stream. There'll be people who no doubt prowl the LGBT tag as a way to harass people. Which,
oh yeah, and like I have to approach it with some semblance of acknowledgement of my privilege as well, because like I am gay and non-binary, and I stream with both of those titles.
Yeah.
But I also weightlift a lot and have the body of someone who weightlifts a lot. And I'm like generally quite mask presenting.
Yeah.
I don't sound it, but like just to like click in. I think that people would click in and be like, oh no, I'm not going to bother, and just move on. And like again, like being white, being sort of like cis presenting. Yeah. I think that kind of shields me a lot. I know some people that have it absolutely relentlessly.
Yeah. So someone asked if I was 27. I am not 27. I am 26. How dare you get that?
Oh, oh no, hang on. What year were you born? I need to play this game with you.
1996.
Was it before or after February 27th?
1996.
Yeah,
I was. Wait, hold on. Are you February 27th?
I'm looking at the date February 27th.
Right. I am September 27th, 96.
Okay. Oh, God, you are officially younger than Pokemon. That's what I was checking.
That's why it never clicked with me. I'm too young. I'm too young.
It's an old Pokemon's a boober thing to you.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
Oh, see, I was born in '94, so
okay.
I remember the first Christmas that I got like the old brick Game Boy with Pokemon Red.
That's
well. Suddenly everything makes sense.
To be fair, you've actually that's given me comfort in the fact that I now don't need to know what Pokemon is. And I like that. Joy's in chat there saying, "I, the child that you do weekly podcasts with." Yeah, that's thanks.
The child.
The child. Yeah, it makes me sound like I'm in the fucking Mandalorian or something. I'm Grogu or whatever his name is. But no, that's so sorry, Sophie the Bookworm. You were asking about how to donate. I think you can use things like Google Pay and stuff like that, and Apple Pay if you have that. You can also use a debit card on Tiltify. Tiltify really need to allow PayPal. I don't understand what's going on there.
So it's hello, someone who has like weekly meetings with with Tiltify. It's actually, I think it's potentially set by the charity.
Okay.
By the organisation as to what they'll accept. So if they've got Stripe in there, that'll be the main thing.
Right. Okay. That explains
it. They can potentially have PayPal, but yeah.
Okay. That
because Tiltify can do everything. They can take everything. I think.
Okay. Because I've had a couple of people. I've had a couple of people saying that they don't want to use like credit cards and things like that. So.
Yeah, it's understandable.
The cool thing is that we're less than £300 away to our target, which is pretty good.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah, it's not too bad, and we don't have a milestone set for the 1,500 yet. You'll see that I'm wearing cat ears and I have a cat face, and I'm wearing a vest, which was also one of the things. It's because people really just like to see the tattoos. That's it.
Yeah. And also, they like seeing the people that they're watching be as uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, well, they achieve that every single stream without fail.
Yeah, yeah. We share a hex. I understand.
Hex.
I know.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So Metal Gear Mandy used PayPal to send me money via Ko-Fi, and I will then add it to the charity. In fact, if Jessica can do it on my behalf, I will forward that money. We're basically we're like money laundering for the. No, we're not. We're not money
Oh
laundering.
God.
We are transferring money tactically. That's what we're gonna call it.
Yeah, this is optimizing exchange rates.
Yes, we are optimi. No, we're not even optimizing exchange rates. It's literally just that it doesn't accept the. It doesn't accept the thing. So no, we're good. Twitch terms of service. Please don't look at me like that.
I think I'm more worried about the charity.
But yeah, we're getting there. And
Yeah, no, you've done an incredible job. Absolutely.
there's actually, you know what, Ennis? Just because I just called you Erinus there. I go between
It's fine.
Erinus and Jay all the time.
It's really confusing because I present with both names, and I can't decide
fine.
which I'd prefer people to call me. So I just use either, and I won't correct you.
That's fine. I mean, like the majority of my chat call me I, and then when they call me Connor, it goes really weird. It's like, what are you doing? Like there's been several donations that are all above the £20 threshold, right? And I'm not sure if you know, but we're doing this thing where I have to eat a really fucking minging jelly bean.
Yeah, I have seen.
Yeah.
I was present for grass.
Do you? Grass was the most gentle one of the lot.
Oh,
would
no.
you, because there's been a couple, would you like to choose the next one that I eat?
What are the choices?
So we've got earwax, dirt, booger, earthworm, black pepper, vomit, soap, sausage, rotten egg, and grass.
Just because I know what the experience of eating this thing is, because I am not very smart, and was an adult when this happened, I would like you to eat soap.
Okay, so long as it's kind of like mouthwashy, that'll be fine.
Yeah, I can understand the displeasure that you're about to experience.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, what was that, Aaron? I missed that.
I can understand the displeasure you're about to experience by eating a soap jelly bean.
That's fucking minging, man. It's like all of them have been minging. I think I've basically every single one that I've tried, bar grass, I've went fucking minging, fucking bouffing, humming, shite. The vomit one and the booger one were probably the worst. No, rotten egg was fucking terrible actually.
Rotten egg is like that is, it's an insidious smell. Like I can't imagine what the taste is like.
Yeah, it's what you know what, you probably can't imagine it, and you know what, whatever you guess, you're right, because it's just it's the worst fucking thing.
I've been like on a volcano as it's been spewing out like sulfur dioxide, and that is the smell of rotten eggs.
Lovely.
So I know. I know.
No, that's fair. Right, Jay. If it's all right with you, I'm actually going to jump up and go to the loo and stretch my legs and all the rest.
That's absolutely fine. I will run away because I have a holiday to go pack for.
Yes, you do. I hope you have a fantastic time, and feel free to plug anything you like before you jump off. Can we get a shout out for Jay in chat? If that's okay, we can direct people to your Twitch.
Yes, thanks, yeah, beyond Twitch, you can find me on literally every social media platform, just at Erinus TV. I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram. I post an insufferable number of gym selfies, so be warned. But other than that, if you like watching streamers get bullied, you'll have a great time.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, and I hope you have a fantastic holiday. You deserve it.
Like
you're not allowed. You're not allowed to look at your work Discord.
I've uninstalled Discord from my phone.
Oh,
I'm prepared.
I can't wait to do that.
Power move.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Hope you have a good one. Catch you in a bit.
All right, you too. Take care. Bye bye.
See you in a bit. Bye bye. Right, I am gonna take a wee. I'm just gonna stretch my legs and I'm gonna go for a piss. And then we'll get Mari into the chat. Hopefully once we're sorted with that. So I'll be away for like, you know what it is. I say that I'll be away for like a certain amount of time and then I'm back in like 30 seconds. You know how it works. But I'll be on shortly. I'm okay just now. Oh, we're all vibrating. How we doing? Actually, I've got food left over that is now well and truly cold. I didn't get a chance to eat it because of everything. Ah, thank you very much, Sapphire. Are you gonna make me put another minging jelly bean in my mouth? It's gone not too bad so far. Coming up for 9 hours, which is not too bad. We're doing fine. Ah. Fuck's sake. Right, rotten egg. Ah, dearie me. Thank you very much, Sarah, for making me eat a rotten egg jelly bean. You're the worst. Right in the middle of me also eating my food. Hey, thanks, Galop. Hope you're doing good. I need to psych myself up mentally for having this. I've got no water left. Jessica's about to fill it up, so... Mary will be joining us momentarily. No worries, technical issues happen, so it's all good. Here we go. Oh, fuck me, man. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's actual howling.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can indeed. How you doing, Mary?
Excellent, I'm not bad. How's yourself?
Aye, doing class. I've just been forced to eat a rotten egg jelly baby for a donation, so it's actual humming.
So I joined at the right time.
Yeah, I have indeed.
Excellent.
How have you been today? You been busy?
Actually, it's not been too bad today. I've just been catching up with myself, you know. Because Thistle are playing away. So I've had the whole of a Saturday. So it's great.
No, that's good. Right, so I've got to ask, when are you running for SNP leader at Westminster? You knew I was going to ask that.
No, you're alright. I could do without that particular headache.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
That's a pantomime you don't need to entertain.
I know.
No, it's okay. Thanks very much for joining. Really, really appreciate it. And I was just wondering, for everyone in chat who maybe doesn't know you, I think that's very few people in chat, but maybe you could give yourself a wee introduction.
Yes, my name is Mary Black. I am the Member of Parliament for arseholes in general. No, I kid on. I'm Member of Parliament for Paisley and Renfrewshire South. And, aye, that's just cracking on with doing that.
Sorry.
Is
one
that,
second,
that's
man's
sorry,
got
that's the
completely
worst
caught,
introduction
completely
ever.
mute everything on my thing. Oh god, one sec.
No worries.
I think I've just managed to completely mute everything. Ah, disaster for Scotland, man. Ah, it's fine, just stupid sound. There we go, can I hear you now? Oh, Discord's just dead.
Oh, Mary got dropped off, but
Alright, okay.
I'm gonna see if we can get it sorted. Hello, chat. I'm Lego. I'm one of the people moderating. Yeah, I'll go see if I can get her sorted, and I'll pop her back in this channel. Just 2 seconds.
No worries, was it just a weird glitch, I'm guessing?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
yeah.
These things happen, it's all good. That's okay. Sorry about that, folks. I think I hit a button there that somehow muted like my entire stream, and then everything died. It's all good. We'll get it back working. We're just gonna hit continue on our Galop playthrough. This is going like weirdly slowly. How you doing, Mary?
Hello, I'm back.
It's all good.
Discord was having none of my chat there.
It was just not. It's no up for it. Sorry, you were introducing yourself.
And I made an arse of it, so it was alright. I am Mary Black, and I am the Member of Parliament for Paisley and Renfrewshire South, and I really like playing games, so it seems like a healthy connection tonight.
Fantastic. I mean, last time we were chatting, you were in the middle of a Red Dead Redemption playthrough.
Yes.
What are you playing now?
Literally right beside me, because I was playing this just before I came on to get myself in the mood. I'm on GTA Online.
Nice.
And I'm actually in the middle of the Cavill Perico heist.
Yeah, I know the one.
I have been in the mansion, and I'm now just trying to make my way back to my escape route.
That's class.
But then I realised the time, so...
No worries. Sorry to interrupt your heist. we do that a lot, but so we've got the idea of Mary Black playing GTA 5 online committing crimes is so funny to me.
This is... How do you think I cope and keep my sanity? Do the things I can't do in the real world.
No, that's cool. So like, and is that the main game that you're playing at the moment, or are you playing other games?
No, it actually is. This is probably the main one, because I go through phases with my games. So I downloaded GTA again because my brother wanted to, basically wanted to bully me online. So I re-downloaded it and figured that I can do this heist by myself. So that's what I'm doing.
Nice, brilliant. Right, so I've been asking everyone the same icebreaker question like all day. So it's your turn now.
Okay.
Is there something that you're particularly proud of achieving this year? And if so, what is it? And do you have like a goal for next year?
Man,
Start with the hardest questions, eh?
I know. See, like open-ended questions like that, I'm like, how deep do you want me to go?
Oh, as deep as you like. It doesn't matter. What does your heart desire the most? Let's hear it.
Right, what my heart desires the most is Thistle to actually be fan-owned.
Nice.
I don't know if you've seen, but there's drama with that just now.
Ah, right, okay.
So that would be what I would want. And what I'm proudest of this year, probably surviving, to tell you the truth. Like the last couple of years, I'm pretty...
The amount of people who've said, "Oh, I survived this year, it's class." That'll do.
It feels like the last 2 years, like, it haven't happened, if you know what I mean.
It's kind of all
weird.
blended together into one big kind of like...
Aye, like one big
Hang.
summer holiday stuck in your house.
Aye. No,
Yeah.
that's fair. No, that's cool. So I'm kind of wondering, like, obviously the chat today's been about a lot of the work that Galop do,
Yes.
and there's tons of stuff around, Gender Recognition Act reform and ending conversion therapy, as well as like obviously the kind of tailored services that Gallup give to LGBT people who are experiencing abuse and violence, but also
Yeah.
who are experiencing hate crime and stuff like that as well. And I'm wondering if you can maybe give us a kind of wee insight into like how. I feel like you're gonna say, well, it doesn't really work, but how does like the system work in like Westminster for maybe folk who don't know how like the British Parliament actually like go through the legislative process of things like that, if that's okay.
Aye, sure. So, I mean, you're right, it doesn't work, the system. But the reason I say it doesn't work is mainly because when you look at what the setup is, so when you elect MPs, it's whoever gets the most MPs forms a government.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's almost like everything's a foregone conclusion. So you still need to turn up and you still need to do that stupid dance through the lobbies voting, eyes to the right, nose to the left.
Aye.
But you already know what the outcome's going to be 9 times out of 10. And particularly from a Scottish perspective, you absolutely know what the outcome's going to be, mainly because like we just don't have the same numbers as different places in England do. So in that sense, I just think it's totally frustrating, and a bit of, in fact, a total pantomime. But beyond that, then you start to delve deeper into it, where you get, legislative bill committees, you get different stages that laws have to go through, and that's basically where you just obviously are checking it line by line. But most of the time, I would say it's exactly the same. It's a foregone conclusion because even on these committees, the government still have a majority, so it kind of doesn't matter what you do unless you can start convincing, the governing party to, have rebels, which is almost a thankless task down in Westminster.
No, that's fair. And of course, like, I think there's going to be a kind of transfer of seats, isn't there? It's staying at 650, but the next election will have, is it 8 less Scottish seats?
Yes, I think it is.
2 less Scottish seats and 8 less Welsh or something like that.
It's see, to be honest, I can't remember the number off the top of my head. But yeah, basically all the boundaries are getting redrawn. So
I can't believe we're losing seats.
I know, even more.
I know, even more. We're getting even less of a say. That's a pain in the ass.
I know, you don't make a difference, but we're going to make sure you definitely don't make a difference.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely bizarre just to kind of like watch it. And I think like that's, I mean, from what you've just kind of said, it sounds like half of the Westminster thing is so like archaic, and like the system is so like old fashioned. Like the fact that we didn't even have like electronic voting, like seems to be quite a. I mean, that must impact
see even
everything.
that, right? So electronic voting during COVID, they brought in like proper electronic voting, where even though we were sitting in our constituencies, we were able to log on, go through all the security stuff and everything, but log on and vote in an instant.
Yeah.
And it was heavenly. Like, I get a bit teary-eyed when I think back to that time. It was just so efficient. And then, of course, they pulled all the COVID support.
So is that all just binned then? So like all
Oh,
the systems...
totally. That's been in the bin for a long time. So what they did now, like, so see when it used to be, you would walk through the corridors one at a time, and your name would get marked off a big list.
Aye.
Instead of that, now what they've got is these wee like e-readers. You know how like in the underground you can do that tap on, tap off thing.
Yeah.
It's you still need to walk through the lobby. It's just you tap your pass on one of these reader things. So it still takes like 10 minutes per vote. It's mental.
Yeah. It's so like that just seems to go against like common sense, does it not? Like, I mean,
Like, no, totally.
Surely,
I mean,
aye.
it feels like somebody's just at it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like the ultimate bam up. Here, let's tell them we're bringing in electronic voting. But the only difference is, we just need to plug this thing in. They still need to walk round. You know,
Oh,
it's
man.
just like, aye, it's rough.
No, it's just fucking bizarre. No, that's fair. Thanks for that kind of like overview, because I think it does explain to quite a lot of folk what the deal is when it comes to Westminster.
I'm always here to cheer folk up, you know.
Aye. No, I mean, I think, like, see, when it comes to Gallup, another question that we've kind of been asking is, like, the specific, like, what's in, like, why is it important to have, like, specific, like, you know, third sector, like, charity organisations that look after specific groups of people, as opposed to, like, you know, for example, one kind of broad domestic abuse charity. Like, why is it important to have that, like, almost tailored care for maybe like LGBT people who've experienced domestic violence, and like why is that important? So I'm wondering if you can maybe like talk about that and maybe why you think it's the most important aspect of it.
I mean, ultimately, see, I've always believed that things should be community based, and there's different definitions of what communities are. Do you know, that can be a geographical area, it can be a shared, you know, sort of feature of yourself, whatever it is. But I think especially when you're getting people at their most vulnerable, and often, sometimes they're most irrational in some senses, because, you know, their life's just getting turned upside down for whatever reason. If you're going to help somebody, it's better to have somebody who's on your wavelength, who kind of understands where you're coming from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only way you can get that is if you do let communities flourish and amongst themselves, and make sure that you provide the support that they're asking for, because nobody knows, you know, what they need to help themselves better than, you know, an individual.
Yeah.
It's the day's brilliant.
No, it's interesting, because it was actually the CEO of Gallup, Lenny Morris, was on at the start of the stream, and kind of learned a wee bit more about the history of how Gallup was formed. And one of the interesting things that, like, I didn't know that Gallup was that old, but one of the things that she was saying was that, like, Gallup was kind of born out of like activism, like specifically to support people who, like, to push back against maybe the police were like baiting people into, you know, like coming out as gay and all the rest of it, kind of like entrapment and that side of things. So like, a community charity that's like, you know, Gallup's run by the community, and I think that makes kind of all the difference, because it allows like way more kind of tailored services, because obviously everyone's kind of individual case will be like unique. So it was interesting hearing like from that kind of side of things what like, you know, the kind of history of Gallup. It was interesting to know that it was like it's coming from like a good community base, you know.
I mean, I think always the best changes do come out of activism, and it's a double-edged sword in many ways, because like I say, activism's the thing that brings about change, but usually the thing that inspires activism is being totally frustrated or being angered into doing something. You know, it usually comes from a place of, this isn't right and it has to change, and that's a sort of heavy burden to carry when you've already got, you know, your own stresses. So yeah, no, you're totally right. It's definitely one of the more powerful things.
No, that's good. I've got a question in chat asking how Sooty's doing.
Do you know, I took a photo this morning because Sooty was right cuddled in, and
nice.
the way the cover was lying over his head, it made him look like a monk. Or like a Jedi. So I have got that photo. I'll need to share that with you.
Brilliant. Primed and ready. No, that's class. On the side of maybe getting more into like kind of the political side of, like, you know, GRA reform and like ending conversion therapy. Obviously Westminster is you know, like obviously it's been a long time coming in the Scottish Parliament.
Yep.
The GRA reform, and we're almost there, and hopefully it comes out with like pretty
Hopefully.
decent legislation. Obviously there's like a kind of Westminster aspect to that as well, because we're like in a way that the Scottish Parliament will maybe try and like pull Westminster along kind of with it. But
Yeah.
like this year we've seen like there was the end conversion therapy in Westminster. We're gonna like drop the T from it and things like that.
Yeah.
How do you like yourselves and like the SNP? How do you kind of walk that kind of line between obviously you're wanting to influence like the Westminster Parliament and the laws that maybe don't apply just to Scotland, even when we're kind of pushing our own thing.
Yeah.
Hope that question made sense.
I know a wee bit.
Alright.
No, I think it's definitely it's the best you can hope for in terms of, like I say, the Scottish Parliament isn't the be all end all power in terms of the UK, but if we can play a small part in changing things and encouraging things to change, then that's exactly what we should be doing. It's a moral duty as well as making sense. So yeah, I think it's just a case of kind of hoping for the best, because the way that Westminster has been, certainly over the last couple of years, is it's just chaos. It's just going further and further to the right, and it's to the point like there are just people actively spreading hate, and misinformation, and sometimes I wonder, do they know it's misinformation, or is it that they're just so radicalised now that they can't see how ancient and warped some of these views are. So yeah, I'm glad that the Scottish Parliament's going in the right direction and that we're going to get it through, and once it is through, hopefully the trans community in particular can just get left alone. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's the most consulted piece of legislation. I think it's a mountain being made out of a molehill. Yeah, the sooner it passes, the better.
Yeah, I mean that's been like kind of the crux of the conversations we've been having throughout the stream so far. Is really, it's like all it is a change to reduce red tape.
Totally.
And
Totally.
like after it's done, like what we'll probably end up finding is that there's a bunch of people who've been kicking up everything about this, that there's really not been that much of a change.
Yeah.
And they'll probably have to like reconcile that with themselves. Like they'll probably have to be like, oh wait,
Aye.
turns out it like the stuff that we've been moaning about for 2 years isn't actually done anything. Like
Aye.
it's a lot of scaremongering.
Aye, totally. And it just reminds you how, like, I think politicians in particular can be guilty of talking about these things as though it's almost some political game to win, but it's not. It's people's lives. Do you know what I mean? And it's very high stakes. So I would much rather that folk. The sooner people are proved wrong, the better, I think.
Aye. No, I think like it's overdue as well. Like
Aye,
from
totally.
the, I think, obviously you've probably seen your fair share of shite online, when it comes to, people being abusive and all the rest of it. And I think like
And that's just my family.
Nah, I think like the the way it'll end up panning out,
Aye.
it'll totally quieten down. But I suppose on like the Westminster thing, 'cause of course we chatted at kind of like the start of the pandemic with the Hollow Knight stream.
Yes, that's right.
So it's been I don't even know how long it's been, to be honest. I'm scared to check. I think, was it 2022? I don't know. 21 that we did. I don't know.
I think it was 21. Was it?
It was either 21 or 2020, which is just terrifying, really.
At some point during the Great Blur.
Yeah, I'm still not something that It was it was 2021, I think.
Right.
So no, that's cool. So like, what have you been up to besides all that? Have you been doing anything else besides working at Westminster?
Now you're going to expose just how sad my life is.
That was intentional.
I know. I'm down to Westminster, Fir Hill. No, actually, I've been really, really dull. I rewatched all of House of Dragon.
You've rewatched
Recently,
House of Dragons. You've not like so you've watched it and then you've rewatched it.
Yes. Oh, aye. No, I'm a right geek about these things.
Is it like I didn't watch House of Dragon because I was still so like upset about how Game of Thrones turned out.
Oh, I feel you.
So like how like is House of Dragon better? Like miles better or
Right. So I'm the same as you. I'm still bitter over Game of Thrones.
cool.
Right. In fact, bitter doesn't do it justice. Like, it physically, something inside my soul physically hurts whenever I think of that last season.
Yeah.
It's just to be so let down,
It was a
so let down, and it could have been done well, and there was no reason it shouldn't have. But anyway, before we get into that, I was the same. I was like, no, you hurt me too much. I would be a fool to take you back. I'm not doing this again. And then I reluctantly watched, the first episode, and I was like, oh well, I mean, okay, I'll get a bash. I'll get a bash.
all right.
And then by the third or fourth episode, I was kind of like, right, I feel like I'm into this. I don't know why I'm into it, but I feel like I am. And then by the end of this season, I'm now just hooked. I'm like, oh, this is excellent. This is being done well. And because I can get really arty about these things, like see geeky shows, I love it. Reading into them, cinematography, all that.
Oh, brilliant. Nice.
So they've got me back on. I'm a fool who's taken them back.
Fair enough. I do have a bunch of people in chat at the moment going, you've mentioned House of Dragon before mentioning your wedding. Congratulations, by the way, on that.
Thank you very much. We know our priorities. This is why I married her.
No, that's class. I'm guessing, is that something you watched together?
Aye. Oh, aye. I wasn't getting away with watching that one myself. But now that we watched it together, any time that I want to rewatch it, I have to do that on my own.
Right, okay. Is your partner like a kind of one and done? I've done my time of like.
No, it's like she likes to like normal people. She likes to take a break and then
right, that's fair.
Kind of remember it exists and then go back to it and
Right.
rewatch it. Whereas when I like I'm one of those people that when I hear a song I like, I'll listen to it on repeat for 3 days.
And then it gets lost in some playlist somewhere, or
Yep.
yeah, no,
Yep.
I feel that. I've been watching The Sopranos. Have you ever watched The Sopranos?
That was just what I rewatched before House of Dragon.
Oh, I'm on the last season, The Sopranos at the moment, and that is just top telly.
Yep.
Like I think that's like golden age telly. Like
HBO knows what they're doing, man.
Aye. It's weird though, because when the show starts, like you get the wee HBO noise, and I still instinctively, I still instinctively go, that's going to be the Game of Thrones tune starting, but then the Sopranos theme kicks off. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep.
No, it's Sopranos is something else. I love
Aye.
it.
Have you ever listened to the podcast The Sopranos Show?
No.
Right, I need to tell you, it's fantastic. It's so there's two, right? There's one called The Last Soprano or something, and it's actually Christopher and Bobby that do that.
Oh, brilliant.
That's not the one I'm talking about.
All right, okay.
That's the one that most folk would be attracted to. No, this one's called The Sopranos Show, and it's two fans, but I think they're also like film students,
Right.
and the two of them just talk through each episode. So it's the same number of episodes of the show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, brilliant.
Listening to it, you pick up things that you've never thought of before. It's fantastic. The layers in that show are phenomenal.
It's-
So I'd give that a listen.
Like I like it's funny because like I'm watching like some of the lines that Tony Soprano comes out with. I'm pissing myself laughing because he does this thing that like I think I recognize in every single like guy I know.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where he hears like a little bit of wisdom like from Carmela or something in the show like earlier in an episode, and he'll then pass it off to his crew as being like
Yep.
this profound wisdom that he's like
Totally.
he follows all of his life, and I see that all the time, and it's so funny.
It's like they do it in The Big Lebowski as well, don't they?
I've not actually seen The Big Lebowski.
He'll,
I need to.
It's the same sort of idea, you know, he'll hear something and then he'll use it later on like he's known
Like-
it all his life.
Sage wisdom. Nah,
Yeah.
it's top telly. I don't know what I'm gonna be watching afterwards. Everyone's told me I should watch The Wire, but like I feel like
See,
that's
right, everybody who I usually have the same opinion of shows with says that The Wire is fantastic, and I watched the first series, and I felt it was a struggle to get through it,
man.
and like too many people have disagreed with me, where I'm thinking I could be wrong and I need to get back into this, but for some reason it's just I don't know, I didn't
click.
gel with it. Nah.
Aye. Nah,
There's no dragons.
no enough dragons. No, that's fair. I mean, like, yeah, I'll probably see if I can find something, but like, I don't know. We watched the entirety of Jane the Virgin. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It might not be your. There's no dragons, unfortunately, but like it follows a young lassie in like Florida who like accidentally gets artificially inseminated, but it's done like I'm trying to remember what's the kind of like Spanish like dramas, like really over the top dramas. Like I can't mind what they're called, but
You're selling this?
telenovelas. That's it. It's a
Right.
telenovela, and it's got musical numbers in it, and but it's like drama all the time. Every
Aye,
single
aye,
episode
sure.
is just
Thumbs up.
like, it's absolutely nuts. Every single character's like got a twin, and then there's like the twins get murdered, and it's just constant. It's like every single episode ends with like that feeling where you're like, oh, I'm gonna watch another one because I need to find out what happened, and then like something else will happen, and it just keeps on going.
Aye.
If you're ever bored and looking for something new, then you should.
Well, the other thing that we recently watched was called The White Lotus.
All right, okay, what's that?
It's weird. Like,
Alright.
I still don't even know if I liked it, but I watched it till the end, and I'm talking to people about it, so I must have. But it's like it's again one of those shows where you're not really supposed to like anybody, and it's a
Aye.
hotel resort.
Right.
And oh god, this is terrible. I can't remember the actor's name. You know Stifler's mum?
Aye.
She's in it, and she's hilarious.
Right.
Like
Okay.
it's just all these different guests and the sort of, you know, the shit they get up to and stuff.
Right.
So it's weird. It's weird, but I enjoyed it.
No, that's fair. No, I feel like we could probably just talk about TV for ages.
Well, the other one I was going to say, do you like It's Always Sunny? in Philadelphia?
I really like. Everyone's always told me to watch It's Always Sunny, and I've always watched. Like I've tried to get through like the first season, and I just go, "Nah, this so isn't my humor."
Right.
But
See,
everyone
part of
tells me
that-
season 2 is where it picks up.
Yeah, well, season 2 is when Danny DeVito joins it, right? But I would
Right.
say jump in at maybe season 5.
Really?
Yeah, because what's brilliant about this show is it's clearly just a group of pals that went, right, Mum, we'll try and make a show and where we make each other laugh. And they just kept building on it and building on it until they actually figured out what the show was. It's the only example I can think of a TV show where it's been allowed, you know, like 5 seasons to find its feet.
Right. Aye.
And I suppose, see, once it clicks, once you get it, and you go back and watch the earlier ones, you can kind of see what they were trying to go for, but were just missing.
Right,
So
okay.
no, I love the show. they've actually just started doing a podcast as well.
About all the episodes, I have
Yeah,
seen the
where they go
podcast.
back and talk about each episode. So it's really good.
Am I
That's,
right in saying like one of the guys off it's like I'm not sure, is he not like a fan of like a Scottish football club or something like that? I'm trying to.
no, Rob McElhenney.
Aye.
Him and Ryan Reynolds bought
Well,
over Wrexham in
Aye,
Wales
yeah.
for that sports documentary. I've never heard that he supports a Scottish team. But
Maybe I'm sure I've seen maybe I've seen him like interact with something Scottish political adjacent. I can't mind, but I'll yeah. I've definitely seen one of them do that. I think. Right, I'm getting my arse kicked in chat, and I know that this is probably a question that you can't answer. But is that, do you have an idea of who you would be supporting for the SNP Westminster leader? I know that's probably way off the mark, but I might
as
as
if
well
I
ask.
tell you.
I was gonna say you're gonna tell me fuck off. So,
Genuinely, I'm not even thinking about that stuff till Monday. You know what I mean? At the very earliest.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
very fair.
precious
Right.
Saturday night time.
Right, chat, you've got your answer. Didn't ask me to ask Mary anymore. That's banned. No, that's cool. So on the going back into the charity side of it and like the work that kind of Galop do. Obviously there's like lots of people that kind of support like charities like Galop as a kind of like principle. Would you say that there's anything that like charities adjacent to Galop and like allies of that could do to kind of help further the cause, so to speak? Like what's the best way that people can be good allies, and what can charities do to maybe be a wee bit more inclusive? I know that's several questions packaged into one.
I think like I always worry that this answer sounds flippant, but I do think it's the truth. It's you just need to continue to engage and educate people, like that's fundamentally how things change, and it is frustrating, and particularly if you're, particularly when you're coming at things from a bad position, or if your life's in a bad position or whatever. It seems unfair that the burden should also fall onto you to change other people's minds. But I do think it's the best, most effective way to get lasting change. And to be honest, when it comes to charities, I don't think I could ask them to do any more. Certainly all the organisations that I know are already stretching themselves beyond thin, trying to do their best, and considering that governments aren't exactly being the most supportive right now, I think it's the work they do is incredible. That is what keeps pushing for the change and holds people like me accountable. So I wouldn't give them any lessons.
No, that's very fair. No, like again, it's one of those things. Like I've said this a couple of times throughout the stream, but like there's an infinite number of charities that like we could do fundraising streams for, just because there's so much good work being done here, there, and everywhere.
Totally.
But it's obviously good to be able to like pick one, and hopefully that kind of goes towards helping a variety of people. Because I think what Gallup do alongside the kind of frontline work is also they contribute a lot in terms of like research into giving policymakers like yourself kind of like the research to articulate for legislation and things. I think Gallup do quite a lot when it comes to the research side of that. As Gallup in chat sends us so it's like we've got people from Gallup who've been watching the stream from the very beginning, and I will say they've been putting in a shift because they're still here. Like I'm the one doing the 24 hours, no you. But it's always it's always good to be able to do streams like this where like people from like the community and wider can hear people like yourself. So I need to ask, we're gonna jump back towards what you've been doing in your spare time. So like, is GTA like your sole focus, or you've got to be playing another game surely? Got to give me something else.
game, right? Hold on.
People were playing Pokemon earlier, but I didn't have time for Pokemon. I was just
What's been? Oh no! I tell you, the other game I've been playing.
aye.
Before I go to sleep now, I've ended up in this habit. There's this bus simulator game I've got on my phone,
Yes.
where you can just drive about.
Amazing. Like
So-
you just do routes and stuff.
Yep, you make your own company, you set it up. Mine's is called Jags Jaunts. We serve 2 pieces of catering per journey.
Catering
we
on
have
a
air-
bus route. Not
Yep,
bad.
we have air conditioning. We have upgraded seats. Last night I was just able to put in LED flooring.
Oh,
I know
nice.
that's impressive.
Oh, I tell you what.
So that's my other game.
Brilliant.
It's so soothing, honestly.
I was expecting something like super hardcore or something like that. You know,
I know.
You've been like you've been sweating some. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a game, but like you've been playing even more Red Dead or whatever it is. But no,
GTA is where I get all the chaos out, all the
Right.
angst and anger, and then my wee bus journey. That's to just get me to settle down. I've got everything I need in front of me. The radio's playing, customers are happy. I'm all good.
Good stuff. And I've got to ask, is it a GTA like role playing server? Are you playing like a character and doing stuff, or is it just like normal online?
Oh, normal online.
All right, okay. So like I've heard like folk who like become like hitmen in like proper role play servers, and they take on jobs and stuff, and it's like, nah.
In Red Dead Redemption, yes, I am a moonshiner. I am a trader. I am everything.
Everything.
Yep.
No,
That's partly why I switched back to GTA, because I had conquered all of Red Dead.
You'd completed Red Dead Online.
Literally even collected everything.
Oh
Like,
wow.
Madame Nazar was having none of me anymore.
No, that's good. I mean, tell you what, like, see if you ever get like totally fed up of the MP thing, you should just become a
Yes.
Twitch streamer. Like,
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
I think you'd be class at it. I think it'd be easy. It'd be the easiest thing you've ever done in your life. It'd be a breath of fresh air.
I tell you, my brother would love that, because he ends up falling about laughing, because, like, see when I'm by myself and doing things,
Aye.
I can concentrate and I'm good at it. See, the minute somebody else is there or there's a timer involved,
Yep.
it's like I just go into panic. So like even if I'm driving and I'm like, right, don't hit the lamppost, don't hit the lamppost, don't hit the lamppost, and it's like somewhere between that thought and my hands, it changes to only hit the lamppost, and it's like, honestly, it's a sight. It's stressful sometimes.
Well, funnily enough, that's the exact same excuse I give whenever I say I'm terrible at games. It's just because I'm streaming it. I'm normally really good.
Pressure.
Yeah, I
That's what it
know.
is.
Exactly. It's performance anxiety is what it is. It's why
Totally.
I'm doing terribly in this game today. Normally I'm like flying through. I've not played it in ages, and I was like, this will be a really like chill, easy game that I can kind of go on autopilot. But the thing is, my autopilot's dumb as hell. I'm not landing any of this today. It's there's a.
It's all for a good cause. It's all for a good cause.
Exactly, and like I'll, you know what? I'll let you pick my next jelly bean that I've got to eat, right? So if you don't know, I've been eating really minging jelly beans based on people's donations. So like there's a variety of flavors. There's earwax, there's vomit, there's dirt, soap, booger, sausage, earthworm.
Hello.
Sorry, I let go.
Sorry, I jumped in and I just hear you listing booger,
Yep.
vomit, dirt.
These are all just nominations for the group leadership.
Yeah.
But there's earthworm, rotten egg, black pepper, and grass. So I'll let you choose the next one if you want, Larry.
Oh, right. What are my options again?
Earwax, vomit, dirt, soap, booger, sausage, earthworm, rotten egg, black pepper, and grass.
Oh, right. I'm going to go for soap.
Everyone really likes soap. Everyone's.
Well, see, my logic is that I've tried those sour sweets, like, like toxic waste and stuff.
Aye.
And to me, they do just taste like vomit.
Right. Okay.
It just takes me right back to Sucky Hall Street outside Noodle Bar. Nope. So soap. I've never eaten soap,
Okay. That's.
and I'm thinking that might be interesting. You can tell us all what it
It's-
tastes like.
It's funny in Canada we have a chewing gum that is soap flavored, and that is the point of its advertising. They're like, yes, we really taste like soap.
Like, so
Amazing.
when you say soap, is it like it's not mouthwash? It's not like toothpaste.
No,
It's like it's
no,
soap.
it tastes like a bar of soap.
It's like fairy.
Oh, I am
liquid.
thinking Imperial Leather here. Like,
Oh.
out of the bar.
Okay, well here you go. This one's for you. This little blue
Right,
jelly
go
bean.
for it. Now you'll actually have to go and get a bar of soap to
to compare.
To compare.
Uh-huh.
It is actually just like it's not as bad as the rotten egg one, but it's weirdly like it does taste kind of chemically, like
Chemically.
like I've never drank bleach, but I feel like this is what it would taste like. Not particularly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rotten egg was bogging, and vomit was particularly horrible.
No.
I
No.
am just gonna interrupt a little bit. I apologize.
Sure.
We do have Myrtle and Kat ready to go
Oh,
Hey,
in the
Excellent.
waiting room.
Because
Just if
I
you
am
wanna.
already, I'm getting chapped on the door. I think I think someone else in the house is complaining that the Wi-Fi needs turned on and off.
There you go.
So that is my cue to head.
no, it's no worries at all.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time, Mary. I really
No,
appreciate
cheers,
it.
thank you, thank you.
Hope you have a good rest of your day, and you just
I
get to
know
have
at
your
any
feet
time. I
up.
hope I finish this mission.
Aye, fingers crossed. Best of luck for it.
Right,
Catch you in a bit.
cheers. All the best. See you later.
See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
I think you should, Sapphire. Oh, Lego disappeared as well. I've just been left. Right, I'm trying to remember what I was doing now. I've just autopilot central. We'll evolutionally leap. It'll be fine. Hi, Kat.
Hello.
Hey, Mriddle. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm gonna just adjust your volume so you're both at max. For some reason, Discord defaults to like a lower version. But how are you both doing today? You doing good?
Yes, I am doing great. What about you, Kat?
I am more awake than I've been the rest of the day. um, so that's good.
Joining a stream in front of an audience does that to you. How's the podcast recording going, Kat?
Oh, it's going quite well. You two already know this. We're trying to put out an episode before the stage 3 of the gender recognition reform bill. That is like lifts up that is just trans people telling their stories. So if please send in your submissions. I can leave details on Twitter or whatever. Myrtle already knows, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do, and I haven't done it yet, but I will shortly.
Cool. No, that's something that I dare say there'll be people watching who could do similar. So no, that's great. But before we get into it, I suppose it's worth both of you. If there any chance you could give yourselves a wee introduction to everyone in chat, just to let them know who you are.
Sure, Kat, you want to go first?
Oh, darn it. Sure. My name's Kat Carey. I am originally from America. I've lived in Scotland for a little over 6 years, and I sometimes write articles. I mostly do the Talking Sense podcast, which my co-host Erin will be on at the next segment with End Conversion Therapy Group. And we're part of the Ungagged podcast family. So socialists from all parties or none for independence.
Awesome. Riddle?
And lots of activism around a lot of things, mostly equalities and social justice.
Brilliant. Nah, thanks.
Right. Thanks, Kat. Well, I'm Riddle Rodwell. I am currently the CEO of Edinburgh Crisis Centre. I've worked in the sort of gender-based violence sector since 2005, mostly in women's aid with working with Black minority ethnic women, and then within the sort of rape crisis network. I've been on a few boards before, including the Equality Network, and I suppose I'm also a trans woman and a migrant. So I grew up in India and moved to Scotland post transition to study, and then, like one of those awful immigrants, refused to leave. And I now live here with my family, which includes my two children, my husband, and my mother in law.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much both for saying a wee introduction there. And just to get us like kicked off, I actually have an icebreaker question that I'm constantly getting reminded of because I failed to ask so many people beforehand. So, is there something that's happened this year that you're particularly proud of? What's something that you've achieved this year that you're proud of, and what would you like to accomplish next year? That'll get us started.
Ooh. Um, so I think this year, well, maybe it happened a little bit late last year, but this year I was able to sort of implement a project within my service, within the Rape Crisis and Rape Crisis Center, along in partnership with two other rape crisis services. That so a first language service in 3 community languages being offered to survivors of sexual violence, which didn't exist before. Like we weren't able to offer that service in those languages. So that's Polish, Arabic, Mandarin, Cantonese, and that's across like 3 geographies. So Edinburgh Rape Crisis Center, the geography we work in, and in 2 other sort of Forth Valley and Moray area. So that feels like a big achievement, and that service came alongside a service specifically for survivors of sexual violence who have learning disabilities, learning needs, as well. Again, that specialism didn't exist in its sort of unique way within our service. I feel quite proud about that. And what I want to achieve next year is for these services to continue because money for them ends pretty soon. So hopefully they will be able to continue in the way that we visualize them.
Brilliant.
Not necessarily a personal achievement, but a professional one.
That's more than fine, and that's a great professional achievement, and especially getting language services up and running, because I think like that's, it's fine. It's hard to find obviously the people to then supply those services. You need to get all the skill set organized. I just want to point out someone in chat, Flaming Daphne, mentioned it's specifically for Mriddle. I want to thank you for all the work with the Crisis Centre, which helped my wife a few years ago. So just wanted to pass that message on to you.
Thank you. You're most welcome.
Kat, would you like to say your bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, my personal maybe it's more personal. I just finally finished my master's degree in international European politics.
Awesome.
I finished my dissertation. I was supposed to graduate on last Wednesday. I mean, I did, but I didn't walk because it was a strike day. So
Okay.
I couldn't cross the picket line, but it was great. My boss talked me out to dinner afterwards. So let's see. What I'm hoping, so I'm an MSP staffer at Parliament. So I'm looking forward to seeing GRR passed. I'm looking forward to the scrutiny, like ending conversion therapy, which is coming up. And there's a few other like equalities and social justice things going through. Other than that, it's just to keep busy, keep working hard, and hope to win some for the, I won't say the good guys because that was That's not the right way to put it, but
You're not far off.
yeah, maybe just fighting the patriarchy. Just
that's
continued
fair.
success.
No, that's good. And can I ask, what was your dissertation on? If you don't mind me asking.
So some people think they're going to change the world, and I was never operating under that assumption that my dissertation would change the world. So I decided to look at what would be the most useful for me professionally, or so I analyzed SNP and Green Party manifestos from 2015 till 2021 to kind of look at how the language has changed and or not changed before and after Brexit. Yeah,
No, that's
so-
interesting. I'd love to read that.
I mean, you can. It's but it really helped writing. By writing it, I really dug really far into. It was just the Westminster and the Green and the Parliament. I didn't do like the local or the European election manifestos, but it really helped me at work because now I kind of have. I really know what
All
the
of them.
parties, the two main parties' positions have been, for the last few years, and it's been helpful.
No, that's brilliant, and yeah, definitely I can imagine it helping a lot from the work side of things. No, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'll-
they were like, it's so niche that you picked that. It's such a niche topic. I'm like, yeah, but not for me. So this is my life.
No, that's class. I'd love to have a read of that if possible.
Oh yeah,
I'll ping you a message after that.
I'll send it to anybody who wants to read it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So obviously today we're here raising money for Galop. We've done really well so far. We've smashed 2 of our goals. We're on our way to our kind of third. And like a lot of the conversation has resolved around a mixture of intersectionality. Intersectionality has been like a kind of common thread throughout pretty much all of our speakers. And there's also been one in regards to like having a charity that helps like a specific group. We were talking about how there's obviously like the kind of broad aspect of like domestic abuse, but then there's like why is it important to have like LGBT specific services? And I was wondering if maybe both of you could maybe touch on that because it might it'll probably spur on a bunch of other questions that we'll take forward.
I mean, I think there's a real need to have buy-in for services across a range of issues. So, particularly in the work that I do, I think it has the best outcomes for survivors of sexual violence who use our services to be seen and supported by someone who they share with at least some, if not all, of their identity. And part of the reason why we have this first language service is to create this buy-in for option for survivors. And we're doing some internal work as well to create an internal buy-in for team, which will be staffed and with volunteers and staff members who are LGBT, because I think it is so important to not just be this generic, which the work, the Edinburgh crisis is perceived to be generic, but internally we've been doing a lot of work to be as intersectional in our approach, and because I think there's also a need you can't just be intersectional in words; it has to be in practice and thinking and skills. So by creating these buy-in for teams, some which are external, some which are internal, what we are finding is that we are also able to share learning with amongst us where we may not have those identities. I mean, the reality is that most of the Scottish workforce, especially in our sector, is white, cisgendered women, many who have to go on a pretty long journey of understanding diversity, inclusion, and also how they may be excluding in their, whether it is in the systems they've created to run to operate services, and but also in our own sort of individual ways that we support survivors. But I think, much needed across a variety of sectors, particularly in the one that I work in.
No, thanks for that. I mean, it's definitely something that's came up a couple of times. We were talking earlier with Fiona Robertson in regards to like the like being careful that the kind of the corporate or like organizational like language that used isn't just like on the surface, and that the understanding actually goes like a lot deeper. And we also were having a chat with Sarah Chung earlier, who was talking about understanding the like being able to better understand the cultural backgrounds, like to actually then tailor services, because there'll be whether it's like cultural taboos or other things that have come up. It does change the conversation a fair bit. So that was kind of both of the other things that we were kind of covering in that conversation.
I think the more insight you have and the more reflection you have about whether like if it is if you are from that community. So as a trans migrant woman, when I'm working with women of color or migrant women or sometimes trans women, I don't do as much case work anymore. I don't see people one-on-one, but when I did, it was so much easier because there was no need for an explanation of so many things, that understanding, like, so much doesn't need to be said, and it is so much easier than to actually get down to the detail of the impact of the violence that we're dealing with, because someone just has to give me a cultural reference, whether it's from South Asia, for example, which is where I grew up. I don't need to know anymore. Whereas if you're not aware of that, there is always this danger where the person you're supporting then also has to become your educator. But the more diversity you have within your organization, and the more power you give those diverse people within your organization, not necessarily hierarchical power, but the power to reflect, to influence, to share learning, the better the experience for the people who use your services, because that educating, that insight comes from the diverse team within your organization. And I'm really quite lucky to be in a workplace that is pretty diverse, both sort of in terms of ethnicity, but also in terms of queerness, if that's the best word to use. And of course, there are other aspects of our workforce that need to become more diverse. But I've never been in a workplace that is both of those groups quite heavily represented. So it's good.
No, that's good. Kat, do you have anything to add on that?
Sure.
The original question.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah, no.
ask
So
the
it's just
question?
like
I have plenty of comments.
No,
Yeah.
they say the initial question was like the importance of having like LGBT specific services. Like what do you think it's important, and what do you think is important about it? And then you're more than happy to like jump over to some of the stuff that Riddle was covering there.
So I don't work at Riddle, and I were at an event this last week, and I asked, "Oh, are you going on the Twitch stream again?" Because last year we overlapped, and that's why we're on together, because we enjoy it, but not because we work together.
No.
So, but I did when in my previous career, I was like a sexual assault victim advocate, as like not as an expert, but as like a triage, if you will, like to kind of help people. And there wasn't as robust things like how Riddle is saying with different languages or whatever. And it really is, it makes such a difference. So like in my workplace, it's a lot different, but working for someone on the equalities committee, there's always something. I'm a cishet white woman, right? I might be an immigrant, I might be disabled, but I'm not visibly disabled. So there's assumptions people make about me that they don't make about other people. But I do feel like the more you interact, the more you have friends who are outside your own community, the less work it is to try and understand. It comes more naturally, because if you're all working together to understand each other and to try and do that, it does. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Riddle. Because, I do think there are people, like coworkers of mine from different countries with different disabilities, with different, gender expressions, different sexualities. It's still overwhelmingly white, which is something that, I'm not in a position to fix myself, but I think about it all the time because I'm raising two children here in this incredibly white country. Um, but I do think it's super important. And, I know a lot of people who have been having like diagnoses as adults, whether it's like a neurodiverse condition or neurodivergent, if it's ADHD or something. And it's really important when you get I think it's important to recognize that everybody has something, because even if you're quote unquote normal, that kind of makes you different from everybody else. Finding ways that everybody can work together is important. It shouldn't just work for the people who are quote unquote normal. It shouldn't just work, I don't know if that makes any sense. I've been rambling.
No,
Well, it does.
sorry, Meadow. Go on.
Sorry, can I go in? I can. I think it does. I feel like there is I think there's a real deficit in our society and in most societies of the world, but I live in Scotland now, in not like people really struggle to be their authentic selves. And like that's the journey as well for most of us, is how can I always be who I am everywhere I go in all settings. But like from childhood for so many of us, it is either dissuaded or actually quite dangerous to be yourself. And I think the more of us who are happy and are able to peacefully and calmly just bring all of themselves to wherever they go, the more we'll be able to, if not understand each other, I think what is often missing is accept each other. And I think, I'm just reflecting on what happened in Buckingham Palace the other day.
Oh,
It
God.
was this need to understand. I mean, of course, it was deeply racist, but also like it comes from this need to fully visualize somebody in our context. And I'm like, well, what if you just accepted what she said as who she was? How much better life would be. You would actually have the meaningful conversations that that event was supposed to be about, rather than about somebody's identity and ethnicity. And I feel like so much of the the transphobia that I experience these days is very much about, and so many other trans people, I'm not alone in what I'm experiencing at all, is this reluctance to just accept people for who they are. I don't need you to understand me, because if I really wanted you to understand me, you would be in my life. So just accept and move on, like, and get on with your life. So I feel like I'm straying in different directions. I'm going to pause there.
No, I think it's a really good point, because I think like the way that you're terminating is like, you don't need to understand me, you need to like accept me, and I think that comes across as like really strong, because the way that like you almost then, like, people who are desperate to understand then almost come across as like interrogators that are forcing people to like explain themselves against their will, and that like that can also be just kind of deeply out of order, to be honest, is the thing. I mean, like, I think the Buckingham Palace kind of event is a really good example of that, because it was like, how often do you have to reiterate the same question and someone go like, well, what does it matter? Plus, I'm from here. Like, you're at that point, you're then asking like, kind of, papers, please, show me your passport, that kind of stuff. And like, it just, everyone who's leapt to the defence, and it tends to be right-wing commentators that have done that, that've leapt to the defence of the the woman, Lady Hussey, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Like everyone who's leapt to her defense is just not like they just haven't got it. They've not understood what's wrong with it, and it like and or it's been excused as, oh, she's from another generation, which I just don't buy, me personally anyway.
Mhm. I mean, this
think
other generation example is like the biggest crap example ever. Sorry, Kat, you were going to say something.
Oh no. I kind of it is difficult because I know like my grandma who is quite woke for an 85-year-old or 84. I don't want to age her. Will sometimes say things and I know that I know her, so I know that I kindly remind her, remember, the world's not like this anymore. Like, I
Yeah.
think she told my daughter, like, oh, are you eating again? How are you ever going to find a man? Now,
Oh God.
that really doesn't represent the way she thinks about things, but it is what was drilled in her head for a lot of years, and she's, in the age of well into cognitive decline, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So, but also she's not being paid to be a royal, I don't know, stand around and hold a purse person. So
Yeah.
I'm not excusing anything that lady said. I've only heard the bare facts of it, and I'm glad that she resigned. And it's horrible that someone was made to feel that way. The person she kept asking, and I want to clarify something I said earlier about working with people from different perspectives and having a diverse workforce. Um, I didn't mean that we could be like lazy and just assume. So I think I have this burning desire. It's almost like a problem where I'm always trying to look at the angles of how can I be better? What can I do better? And I at least know I have people that I can talk to for, I can get diverse viewpoints. And so there has to be a will to collaborate, I suppose.
True. And, I think there's a significant difference in like showing how you were socialized or grew up, and and I am apparently already saying awkward things according to my 12-year-old. So so it's like I think there is you genuinely know sometimes, like you can sense if someone is coming from a place of power and maliciousness, or just that they are coming from a place of something that was taught to them that they haven't as yet unlearned, or I think there are those differences, and no one is like, it's not as black and white sometimes. But I think what was interesting when you were saying there about show your papers, um, but that's like the reality for most of us who are minoritized. Like if you look at the whole sort of gender recognition reform, the violence that has come with it, towards trans communities, especially for those of us who are using or working within what are perceived or so-called women-only spaces, or single-sex spaces, as they like to call them. And I don't want to invalidate the need for those kinds of spaces. We maintain them very strictly in my own work for most of the time. But I think again there, that whole thing was my own experience was like, oh, you have to show your papers, you have to show this gender recognition certificate to access or to work in these places. And I'm like, well, I don't have one because I can't meaningfully get one because of the way you set up the process as an immigrant. And honestly, I didn't think I needed one. But anyway, and then similarly for people with disabilities, I think like there is such a pressure sometimes. Like I have a child who has a disability, and to get this diagnosis or to get this certification from some person in position of authority, for it to be believed, for him to be believed, or for us to be believed as parents, that yeah, he has a disability and therefore he needs these services. But that's show your papers. Um, uh, expectation already exists in our society and is so much part of our system. It's most clearly played out in the public eye and almost sanctioned, I would say, for immigrants these days because it's straight at the border. Like even if you have a British passport and you appear to be an immigrant or are an immigrant with a British passport, occasionally you'll get asked like, "How did you get your passport?" And I'm like, "Well, I paid for it." And then I don't know, like everyone else, but that's not a very safe answer if you're an immigrant with a British passport. So if you say you paid for it because they think you bought it, which I did, but I just paid instead of a trafficker, I paid the UK government a lot of money to get my British passport. But yeah, I feel like that is so prevalent in our society, and the more society is leaping to the right or is not being checked by those in power as being problematic, um, the more dangerous it becomes for all of us.
Yeah,
that-
I mean, I'm an immigrant. I don't even have permanent residency yet, but and it really it sucks. But unless I open my mouth and start talking in an American accent when I'm walking down the street, people assume, or if I say that I'm Scottish or British or that I belong here, and the number of times people said, "Well, don't you have an Irish grandparent or Scottish grandparent or and I'm like, no, like I am only Scottish by way of like living here. I have no blood inside me that is
I find I end up in these conversations on Tumblr all the time because I think it is like it's really like the moment you start talking about like blood quotients when it comes to like nationality, I recoil. It's so like it's just not how
Which
I view the
I have to
nationality.
yeah, that's fair, but I do think there's been a lot of hate on Americans who quite innocently
Oh
don't
no,
really know.
oh definitely, like 100%.
Yeah, like I don't know the exact, but like one of my great grandparents was Norwegian and the others were all German, like heritage. But like we kind of lived, I grew up in Wisconsin, which is very German and very Scandinavian. But yeah, if I say like I'm 1/8 Norwegian and 7/8 German, it does sound like to me now it sounds very wrong, and I would never say it that way. But there's something about being European American, I guess, where I mean, I think I know a lot of like African Americans who know like if they're originally from Ghana or originally from a different country. I think it's just but it's not that way here.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that it's not about blood here and how much effort has gone into that. So I do like that. But circling back to what Riddles, oh, go ahead.
No, go on, Kat. I'll
Oh,
comment.
I was going to circle back to what you said about like self-identifying and being believed because what they say about like that's a lot of what's the chatter or like the rage online has been about self-identifying as disabled. Like, well, it is. It's people will tell you who they are if you listen, and even the people who are lying to you will eventually tell you who they are if you're paying attention.
Absolutely. But like it's interesting when you say about nationality and blood, but actually it's it's written into our immigration laws. Apart from being naturalized, like I have been, and maybe Kat might be one day. You can only pass down citizenship through blood in this country. So it's not so unless you have a parent or a grandparent for some, you can't acquire British nationality. So there's such a myth that still exists in some people's minds that if you are born in the UK, you somehow are automatically a British national or a UK national. You're not. The law changed in the early 80s to, where if you were born here, you acquired British nationality, but that is simply not the case. So blood is such a significant, it's like written
Yeah.
into our immigration system, into who acquires nationality in the UK context. And it will be interesting to see what route an independent Scotland takes in deciding who acquires nationality here.
I mean, if it was up to me, like I wouldn't. I would like anyone who lives here is good. I really I can't get behind the blood aspect of nationality just because I think it's like you said I know that I knew that the UK like does blood, and I think America doesn't though, right? America
No.
naturalization.
America has birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
So
Which is
and actually, not to plug my pod too much on here,
no
but
crack on.
with Talking Sense, part of what Aaron and I had decided to do is talk about what is independence for? Like, what do we want to see? So our last episode, Aaron talked about birthright citizenship and how important it is for her to see that in independent Scotland. I think I need to learn more before I take a firm stance on that, but you know, it seems like a neat and tidy way to go forward.
No, that's a good way of putting it. I believe we're also being joined by Casey now.
Hi, how are we doing?
I'm doing
Hi.
not too bad. Sorry, I think you've been here for a wee while. I've just
That's
cut you.
okay.
No,
Other
no
people
worries.
were talking, and I just wanted to let everybody finish.
No, that's good.
So I wasn't just about to barge in and go like, hey, hey, up.
Hey. No, that's no worries at all. Kat Mriddle, I'm not kicking you off, so you absolutely don't need to leave. But I will allow Casey to introduce herself to the chat if that's okay.
Hello, everyone.
Absolutely.
It's me, everybody's favorite sloth mom from the internet.
How have you been doing, Casey? You been doing okay?
I've been doing pretty well. I've been taking some time off from the internet and spending time with family recently. So
See, that sounds wonderful. Just, like not having to deal with the internet at all. Fantastic.
yeah, the only time I checked the internet was while it was very briefly while I was pooping, as you do.
So I'm sorry, I'm being messaged in chat. What horrible jelly bean do I have to eat? So for those of you who are here, I'm being forced to eat Ming and jelly beans per.
Oh, do I get to pick one?
Yeah, you can pick one as well. I've got two to eat, so I think chat will choose one and you can choose the other.
Ooh,
So chat's chosen vomit.
Oh dear.
And I'll pull up the list. 1 second. So we've got earwax, vomit, dirt, soap, booger, sausage, earthworm, rotten egg, black pepper, and grass. So
What is the least mean that I could pick? Like
well-
what would booger taste like?
but
I
have no experience of having my own. However, I did see someone in chat say that booger is salty.
yeah, imagine it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's your choice then.
Eat a booger for charity. Why not?
Yeah, sure. Great. Okay, so I've got I've got my vomit one, which looks exactly how you would kind of expect it to, and then the booger one is very much lime green. So
Aw.
this is what chat put me through. So here we go.
Black pepper would be
That's-
the least mean.
Or grass. Vomit is fucking disgusting, as you would expect.
I cannot imagine a vomit flavored jelly bean. What taste acidic or
It's just I'd say acidic. Yep, definitely some
Yeah.
acidity there. Oh, it's just horrible. And yeah. So what have you been streaming recently? What have you been playing? I know
last thing I was streaming was Evil West,
the
which
cowboy
is
one.
exactly.
I
It
did.
is
I
very good game.
I must admit, when I saw the trailers for it and like the launch trailers, I was like, that is definitely a Casey game. It's right up there, right?
It's yeah. It it's that kind of like a lot of people have seen that they're describing as a very solid 7 out of 10 game, and I kind of love like games that are not exactly perfect, but they do something interesting that I really love.
Right.
And yeah, Evil West it's doing it for me. It's gameplay wise, it's very God of War.
Oh,
The
okay.
2018 God of War is what I would most compare it to.
That's okay. That's an interesting comparison. It didn't look like a God of War-esque. I'm guessing the combat. You mean?
Yes,
Okay,
combat
that's
wise and gameplay wise, it is a very fun game.
nice.
And you know, if you don't know the story of the game, you are a sci-fi cowboy in a secret organization like BPRD from Hellboy, that
Right.
sort of thing,
Nice.
who fight monsters that the public don't know about.
Nice.
And it's like you and your secret organization against vampires. And
Cool. I like.
it is a straightforward single player. Actually, I think there is co-op, so it's
Oh, cool.
not strictly a single player game. I gotta correct myself on that.
No, that's fair. I
And
mean,
they do a lot of really fun and interesting things with the vampires that I love.
Oh.
There's lots of here are weird kind of
weird
weird
spins on it.
creatures that are kind of using leeches to store blood from their victims, and it's like,
Okay.
oh, it
Scratches
really
them.
goes very icky with their vampire design. And I
Nice.
like it.
No, that's cool. Like it does something just like that little bit of like tweaking on the formula. To be honest, I actually thought like, and I know this is probably totally wrong in terms of like gameplay, but to me it looked like a really solid kind of like double A game, a la like the Terminator game that came out a wee while ago. I'm not saying it's got any gameplay wise, but like just a really like like a game that's like a solid meal,
Yeah.
No,
I think it's impressed me a lot.
cool,
There's some phenomenal art direction.
nice. I did see the like the cutscenes in particular are all like incredible, and they're so like for the type of game that it is, like the cutscenes are like really like chunky but also like high quality.
Yeah, I think the developers did a lot with what they had, and it does seem like it's like there's some like not a great deal of animation going on with some of the background characters and things like that, and but that they focused where they needed to. So like the main characters are really nicely animated. The combat is very nicely animated and everything. It's like, like
Nice.
they did so. I have to, hats off to the art team. They did some amazing stuff in that game. Like the environments, not cluttered, but just really nicely detailed, and it is a game that is very, very playable.
Nice. No, that sounds cool. You're being told that you have a lovely ASMR voice. In chat.
I've been told that plenty of times, and I will gladly use that voice for evil. Now, if you want me to read anything for you,
Oh, would you? I'm gonna leave whatever you read up to you, because the last time you pulled out the Raven and it was wonderful.
yeah, I tend to do that a lot.
Oh, but if you've got anything else up your sleeve, you're more than welcome to.
I don't really, but if there was something that you would like,
Oh,
I will gladly.
I feel like I'm gonna divert to chat's idea. We need an ASMR off ISMR versus. Nah, I don't do the ASMR. I don't have the voice for it. Oh, that Machiadoris just killed that warthog. There we go. Have you ever played Ancestors, Casey?
I have not.
Ah,
It
okay.
looks weird.
It is. I'm not entirely sure if it's a game that you would like, to be honest, based off what I've watched you stream. But it's a game about evolution, and you play as like a clan of apes. You control one ape at a time, and
Yeah.
you strap the baby monkeys to the front and back of you, and then when you do things in the world, you gain experience points that you can then use to evolve. Um, so we started off the game crawling on all fours, and we've unlocked bipedalism, so we can now walk around like this.
Hmm.
And we also unlock like different like senses and stuff like that. It's quite cool. Um, I love it. I think like it's one of the games that like it's not as pick up and play as some other games. It's by the former creative director of Assassin's Creed. They
Yeah.
started a new studio in Canada, and oh god, and I'm constantly being attacked by evil, by everything really, attacked by absolutely everything. So I've realised I've not done the icebreaker because I've mucked it up once again. But Casey, what is something that you have achieved this year that you're particularly proud of, and what is something you would like to do next year?
Oh, I don't know. I've been I've been doing all right with my streaming. It's going nice. I don't know. This year has been very just, you know, motoring along at a nice pace.
The,
I
the,
I'm not that interesting,
oh, come off
unfortunately. I'm just
it.
so I can't like I don't know. Didn't really do much out of the ordinary.
Okay. Is there something you'd like to do next year?
Oh, hopefully, excuse me. Sorry for the yawns. Hopefully, have my YouTube channel launched and have
Oh,
stuff
nice.
finished and written and edited and everything. And
Is is it going to be a game review channel?
not specifically, no.
Oh, oh,
It
right,
is
okay.
it. Oh, okay. So do you want the skinny?
Oh, I want the skinny. Hell yeah.
Okay, so something people might get a little excited for this idea, but I'm going to. I have been planning on doing this for a while now, launching a horror themed YouTube channel. So it'll be anything horror, like horror games or
Nice.
movies, TV shows, what have you. Anime is something that I had been working on a script for. I have I have several half finished scripts, and I'm trying to get over whatever the hell bad brains are happening that is preventing me from completing the things that I start. So that's something I want to have done soon. So
Awesome.
next year.
No, that's brilliant. That sounds really exciting. I was the reason why I was asking video game reviews is because obviously your curator page is something that I kind of like live and die by. I like your recommendations a lot.
Thank you.
And like depending on you liking something probably weighs quite a lot in regards to whether or not I'll grab it. So like yeah, because like I've been following your creator page for like a good wee while, so that's why I was asking there. Do you have
Yeah.
like you said you had several scripts like going? So
Yeah.
like have you like is there any topics that you can reveal at the moment? Is there any specific like horror kind of media that you're keen on?
Um, I'm working on a script for a video about Rot, the
Oh,
Sov
nice.
kind of Soviet era first person shooter um,
Yeah,
that
no,
that I enjoyed so much.
yeah, I like that. That was the kind of the retro type shooter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that looks cool. No, that'll be cool. Well, you'll have to let me know when it gets announced. I dare say I'll see it on Twitter and everything else, but you'll get a subscriber almost immediately.
Oh, thank you.
So I suppose kind of like talking more about the charity that we're raising money for today. We have smashed our first and our second goal, and we're en route for our third one. We're currently on a kind of really awkward number. It's 1,299 pounds and 38 pence, which is like just gonna annoy the hell out of me until it's fixed. But we've been talking about Galop and the services that kind of Galop offer, in particular, when it comes to like why it's important to have like specific
Oh,
support.
thank you for the gift sub.
Oh, thanks, Metal Gear
Metal
Monday.
Gear Mandy.
And it's more like why is it important to have LGBT specific like support and charity? So maybe you can give me your thoughts kind of on that, and then we can bounce off into another topic.
What are my thoughts specifically on having?
Just like why do you think it's important to have like LGBT specific like support like channels and charities and stuff like that? I know that's quite a broad question.
Yeah, it is a bit broad, but that's okay. You can be broad. I suppose like being gay or trans, people face a lot of different issues that might be invisible to a lot of other people, that might not be considered. Like
Like when it comes
access to healthcare, certain specific discriminations in housing and things like that. It's sorry, I am sleepy.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, like to kind of add a wee bit more, like Gallup were telling us earlier, we had the CEO, on, and you're gonna make me sleepy if if you're not
I'm
careful.
going to keep yawning, and I'm going to drag this entire stream down.
No, you will
and
not.
Everybody's going to be yawning now.
No,
I'll send everybody to sleep.
No, you're lifting this stream up to new heights. So what the CEO of Gallup was just chatting about was how like their kind of approach to people who need help, because they look after and support people who've experienced like abuse and violence and things like conversion therapy and all of that crap stuff. And the approach is that like it's almost everyone is an individual and they all get their own kind of like tailored approach after like an initial kind of assessment. And I think one of the things that came across quite strongly from Gallup CEO was the fact that it's run by the community as well means a lot, because it means that like people are not like, it's one thing to put someone in front of someone who's maybe been like gone through a diversity training course versus someone who's maybe had a wee bit more kind of like lived experience. And that's not to put down anyone who's maybe like learned about it through like training, but being able to have someone who's maybe got that kind of lived experience that's maybe not exactly what someone's faced, but maybe slightly adjacent to, puts them in a lot kind of better sound of ground for understanding. Casey, you're being asked to read the poem that's in the Discord channel. I don't know what poem it is, but
Nope.
yes, you're not doing that. That's fine.
No, of course. Let's see.
I don't know what the poem actually is. I'm gonna pull it up on my own phone now. And my phone's dead. Great. Forget that then.
Okay, so I
I'll just shut up and let you read now, Casey. That's what I'll do.
is it just curious? Is this a I'm so it's something from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice.
I was just curious. Was it what? There's a German band that I like called Blind Guardian who do some songs based on Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's work.
Oh, cool.
And I was just kind of sleepy, so my brain isn't fully there. So I was just thinking, hang on, is that from Lord of the Rings, or is it specifically lyrics from a Blind Guardian song about Lord of the Rings? So I'm like, anyway, whichever. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, 9 for mortal men doomed to die, 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. In the land of Mordor where the shadows lie.
You must have had offers for voice acting, right?
Nope.
Whoa, holy shit. Like, that needs to get changed.
So, I was I was going to pick something.
Yes, you can pick something as well. Feel free to read for the rest of the stream. Actually, it'll definitely like gently rock me to sleep though, which is it might be an issue
Might be
if-
unfortunate.
Yeah.
I do tend to send people to sleep.
Aw, not like that.
So this is The Sleeper. Appropriately
Where's my coffee?
by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh,
So I did The Raven last time, but I like this one. He's it's a little not as famous, but it's a nice one. It goes a little something like this. At midnight in the month of June, I stand beneath the mystic moon. An opiate vapor, dewy, dim, exhales from out her golden rim, and is softly dripping drop by drop upon the quiet mountain top, steals drowsily and musically into the universal valley. The rosemary nods upon the grave, the lily lolls upon the wave, wrapping the fog around its breast. The ruin moulders into rest, looking like Lethe. See the lake. Conscious slumber seems to take, and would not for the world awake. All beauty sleeps, and lo, where lies Irene with her destinies? O lady bright, can it be right, this window open to the night, the wanton airs from the tree-top laughing through the lattice drop? The bodily airs, a wizard rout, flit through thy chamber in and out, and wave the curtain canopy so fitfully, so fearfully above the closed and fringed lid, neath which thy slumbering soul lies hid, that o'er the floor and down the wall, like ghosts the shadows rise and fall. O dear lady, hast thou no fear? Why and what art thou dreaming here? Sure thou art come over far off seas, to wonder, a wonder to these garden trees. Strange is thy pallor, strange is thy dress, strange above all the length of tress, and this all solemn, silentless. The lady sleeps. Oh, may her sleep, which is enduring, so be deep. Heaven have her in its sacred keep, this chamber changed for one more holy, this bed for one more melancholy. I pray to God that she may lie forever with unopened eye, while the pale sheeted ghosts go by. My love, she sleeps. Oh, may her sleep as it is lasting be so deep. Soft may the worms about her creep, far in the forest, dim and old. For her may some tall vault unfold, some vault that oft hath flung its black and winged panels fluttering back, triumphant over the crested palls of her grand family funerals. Some sepulchre, remote, alone, against whose portals she had thrown in childhood many an idle stone, some tomb, from out whose sounding door she never shall force an echo more. Thrilling to think, poor child of sin, it was the dead who groaned within. Hopefully that was okay.
That's absolutely fine. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. I was very much trying to keep awake through that. Your voice is just so nice to like lull me to sleep. I've still got another, oh, God knows how long to go. I've got another 14 hours or something. That was amazing. Thanks very much.
Is there anything else I could do?
Do you have one more in you, or
What would you like?
well, yeah, okay, you're asking the wrong person. I think chat would be the people to people to ask. Go on, chat. What we got? And there's a wee shout out for you as well, Casey.
Oh, don't worry about shout outs for me. I'm the one who should be shouting you out.
No, not at all. That's not how it works. I'm afraid you're my guest speaker. Chat's just saying too bad anyway.
Oh,
Right, sorry, one wee second. I just need to double check something. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yep, that'll be fine. Go. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, my partner. I'm desperately trying to say go and actually get some sleep because I'm doing the 24 hours and she shouldn't be. So I don't want her staying up. Yeah, here's the thing, Casey. Have you ever heard crucifix nail nipples?
sorry. What? What?
So in chat we have my good friend, my podcast co-host, and the international best-selling author Joy DeMora, and she made a particularly interesting Tumblr post that has kind of lasted forever and continues to grow. Way back in 2016. and it has it's stuck around as a kind of timeless a timeless read into someone essentially writing bad kind of like Puritan like vampire erotica, and it features the line "crucifix nail nipples."
Okay.
I'm as if that's not a thing you want to read, that's absolutely fine. It's choice.
Look. Somebody got me to read some of My Immortal, the
Oh,
weird,
oh, okay. No,
terrible Harry Potter fan fiction. But
that's absolutely
so
fine, because in that case, crucifix nail nipples is not a problem at all. Can we please get Casey a copy of the post? It's not that long, but it is worth. I kind of want to. I want to both apologize and also make you read it at the same time because it's really funny. But if you could do one more, Joy's not allowed to rest until everyone's had a chance to read this. But if someone can post the link in chat, one of the mods or Joy, Casey, you might be able to open it up. Either that, or I can send you it directly on Discord if you prefer.
I'm just very.
You don't need to if you don't want to. I'll say that right there. You don't need to.
This is happening a lot earlier than it did last time.
Yeah, I know. Welcome, Tristan and Erin.
Somebody get me this thing.
Yes, it's happening. Tristan and Erin, I hope you're cool with that. I'm sure you will be. But
Oh yeah, totally.
awesome, and I'm gonna adjust.
If I need to duck out and make room for other people, I don't want to take up any more space.
That's absolutely fine. There's a link in chat, Casey. I'm not sure if you can see that and open it. But
Yes.
it's a link to the post, and I'd like to say sorry in advance because you're going to be thinking about this forever.
Is this sorry? Is this
It's-
where do I start from?
So you read the full thing. You can read it from the. It's not an excerpt of the book. It's the post itself. But
Right.
it contains all the necessary lines.
Oh dear. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, so I'm just going to read from. So this Tumblr post, somebody says, "I'll never not be amused by the fact that I can drop the words crucifix nail nipples into conversation, and some of you who've been with me since the live journal days will join me in the flashbacks, screaming and crying all the way." Somebody else has said, "I require context because this is a very interesting start of a story and I need the rest of it. Could I get a link or a summary or something, please?" And whoever's Tumblrino this is goes, "All right, buckle the fuck up, kids. It's the year 2012, and I've just been handed what should be an easy editing gig by my senior editor. It's a vampire erotica story because one of the final Twilight movies is about to come out, and everything is vampires. Everything. I haven't edited a single thing in months, which isn't about vampires. I am ready. I can do this." So I open the file and notice there's a typo in the title, which really should have been my first inkling that something horrendous was about to go down, but you see, I'm not quite dead inside yet, so I can carry on, bushy-tailed and bright-eyed, with my faith in humanity intact. It'll be dead by page 24, but I don't know that yet. I'm just editing one more vampire boner fest. The main character is a girl we'll call Sue. Sue is a good girl, TM. Sue is not like other girls, TM. She is pale and awkward and a virgin, has somehow managed to find herself a bad boy, TM, for a boyfriend. We'll call him Dickhead. Now, Dickhead, as previously stated, is a bit of a dick. He tries to pressure Sue into sex because he knows she is the one. TM. But he loves her really, so it's okay. Except it's not okay because Susie, good girl, TM. And holding out till marriage, which he's fine with, except he's got such a bad case of blue balls that one night walking home an attractive stranger lures him into the alley with the words, "Hey stud," and he follows, dick out before she's even finished her sentence. Well, turns out that was a mistake for Dickhead because she's a vampire. But not just any vampire, a dick-biting vampire. So what started out as a skeevy blowjob behind a club that he'll feel bad about in the morning turns into him being bitten on the dick and drained of his life essences and left for dead. Except DBV fucked up and now he's a vampire. You still with me? Good, because it's about to get weirder. Realizing he is now an abomination, Dickhead flees, becoming a creature of the night and feeding on animals rather than humans to repent for being such an asshole in life. Sue, meanwhile, is heartbroken but carries on valiantly with her life and goes to bed each night crying for the loss of her one true love, TM, who she would do anything to bring back. Well, guess what, Sue? Dickhead never really left you. He's been instinctively protecting her from rapists by hiding out on her roof and fighting hobos who try and get to her open window via the fire escape for months now, because that's not fucking terrifying at all. This is weird. Upon learning of his predicament and how it happened, Sue can do nothing but blame herself. Oh, if only she'd let him touch her secret places, then perhaps all of this could have been avoided. Meanwhile, Dickhead is having another dilemma of his own, realizing too late that his vampire powers have given him super senses. And now he can smell her blood and he can't decide whether he wants to get with her or eat her. And I don't mean in the French sense, but he is strong and overcomes his base manly vampire instincts and neither rapes nor kills her. Hurrah! And this so romantic that Sue gives it up, but not before she launches into a theory about how in all fairy tales, true love saves the day. So maybe her magical pure vagina that has never been touched by anyone, not even her, can bring him back to life. So Dickhead, being a dickhead, agrees and rips her clothes off, but not before he takes one last moment to marvel at the beauty of her purity, because he will never again look on her again and know she is pure. If you've only vomited once by now, I applaud your resolve. So they hop on the good foot and do the nasty, except she is literally so pure in spirit, her flesh burns his. And I quote you from memory, because these words are burned into my souls. These words are burned into my soul. Her breasts bit into his hands like crucifix nail nipples tearing at his flesh, but he did not care because he loved her so and couldn't stop. This phrase haunts me. I dread that it will be the last thing I think about on my deathbed, and the last words will literally be, God fucking damn it, as I die, carrying that mental image with me into the afterlife. My own solace is in knowing that I inflicted it upon other people too. like Azuri, who is somehow still with me after all these years, when the magical burning sex fails to heal him and leaves her bruised, battered, and broken with a dainty blue bells of bruises around her secret flower. I am genuinely quoting this. I could never make something as horrendous as this up without being on acid. Dickhead leaves. Yeah, off he fucks, leaving her to the mercy of the hobos at her window and into the night to be the true monster he really is. But wait, there's more. Remember the dick-biting vampire? Well, turns out she has figured out how to make him into a vampire and has also been stalking him and is totally jealous of Sue, so tries to kill her. But again, Sue's purity saves her life because sex before marriage, which was done out of true love, is not a sin. So she is still a spiritual virgin. And I'll be honest, I started drinking heavily at this point, and it's all a bit of a blur. A fight ensues some pages later after Dickhead returns, realizing the mistake he had made, and he rescues Sue from Dickbiter, but not before he assaults Dickbiter and calls her a slut for luring innocent men into alleys, cuts her heart out by cutting her breasts off, at which point I scream, "That's not how you reach the heart!" And my brain short-circuited completely, and I have no idea how it ends, because I realized there was 30 pages left and my soul couldn't take it. I emailed the chief editor like question mark exclamation point, and the book was immediately pulled from the work line and the author dismissed from the publishing house. Turns out she was a friend of a friend, and that was how she got the manuscript past our entry levels for requirement. And that's the story of how an author sent me death threats for over a month because I stopped her shitty vampire porn from ever seeing the light of day. You're all fucking welcome. Oh dear, that is
I'm so sorry, Casey. I'm sorry to Joy in chat who wrote that, and I'm sorry to you as well.
Oh no, I'm so sorry to whoever I have. I'm sorry to everybody.
No, that
I'm
was
so
fantastic.
sorry.
No, thank you very much for that, Casey. I really do appreciate it. And I mean, to be honest, I'm also sorry that we put you through that. Oh man,
I've read worse.
I was trying not to cry through your reading of that. That was very, very funny. Right, okay. Casey, you're more than welcome to stay if you want, but I also have Tristan and Erin on the call, and they are...
I will bounce out and make room.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much for joining. You've been an absolute pleasure to have as always. Hope to see you again soon.
Take care.
Catch you in a bit.
Good night.
See you later. Bye-bye. Justin, Erin, how you doing?
Hello!
Interesting after that.
Sorry, I feel like you joined and you've just been hit with like both barrels.
Solidly the weirdest intro we've had.
Yeah, that's fine. And that was actually the intro for the pair of you. You don't need to say anything else. Nah, I'm joking. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves to chat for those of them who don't know you?
Yeah. Erin, you go first.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Erin. I am one of the co-founders of the End Conversion Therapy campaign, along with Tristan, Sophie, and Blair. I'm also the co-convener of Out for Independence, which is the LGBTQ wing of the SNP.
Magic.
And I'm Tristan, one of the other co-founders of the End Conversion Therapy campaign. And I'm here wearing that hat instead of my too many others. And yeah, we are together one of the only good things that has come out of Twitter, given that we met via direct messages back in 2020.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I've basically coordinated the entire campaign through a Twitter group chat, which, yeah, makes the end conversion therapy campaign one of the few good things to come from that mess.
Brilliant. No, that's great to have you both on. I remember our time during the Hollow Knight stream. That was a good laugh. So I'm looking for even more this time. So I'm gonna. Everyone's kicking my arse like once again on the. I need to do my icebreaker. So obviously I know both of you, so we don't need that. But I will ask you them regardless. What is something that you're proud of this year? And what is something that you would like to achieve next year?
I guess I'll go first. Something that I'm really proud of this year, not in my unconversion therapy campaign hat, because I think if I just answered with that, then Tristan and I would kind of give the same answers, was as part of OFI, I co-organized a March for Trans Equality in Edinburgh alongside the Rainbow Greens and LGBT Labour, and yeah, that was really, really great. And we got like a really good turnout, and it was just so good to be able to do that when we've had, GRA reform coming up this year. And something I'm looking forward to next year, apart obviously from, fingers crossed, the conversion therapy ban happening. I'm just looking forward to continuing to do more work for the LGBT community in Scotland and promoting good policy.
Awesome. No, that's great. Thanks very much, Ed. Tristan,
my side of things, again, not looking ECT because we'll go into that, but I think it's probably necessary that I name my proudest thing this year being the fact I got married to an amazing wife, which I will know full well given he was there. And
it's a fantastic night.
It was a great night. People think there's only so much you can Kaylee, and they're wrong.
Go hard or go home.
Exactly, as late as possible. And next year, looking forward to the progress we're going to be making on the ECT, but also working on our Republic rally for the Charles's coronation, which I think could end up being really big. So I'm looking forward to that.
No, brilliant. Thanks very much to you both for that. It's well, first of all, congratulations on your wedding, Tristan. That's I know I said it at the time, but it's nice to see that that's like a kind of landmark event of the year, and it was really good fun. I had a great time there. Kayleed for a very long time. I will never stop Kayleeing. And so, okay, let's get into the stuff you've been doing with conversion therapy, because I think last time, obviously, you'd started the campaign back when we were doing the Hollow Knight stream, which seems like 40 years ago now, but it really isn't. It's not been that long. So what have you been up to since then? How's things been going on the ECT side of things?
Yeah, so we've got kind of like three sections to this. One is what happened between the ECT the stream with Hollow Knight and the election. What's happened since the election and what we've got coming up. So cool. At the time we had the stream last time, we were kind of just kicking off into election mode ahead of the Hollywood elections, during which we campaigned hard to get as many MSPs on board as possible. And anyone who's interested, you can go on our website and you can see the full list of every candidate who ran for Parliament in Scotland and whether or not they supported our campaign. And we have a big long list. We got loads of people agreeing to support our campaign who are running for election, making us one of the most widely supported campaign groups during the election. I think our competition with people like Sustrans, and who doesn't like cycle lanes unless you're particularly NIMBY inclined. And So in the run up the campaign, we got a huge amount of support. The only party that showed any opposition to us at all when it ran up to election was the Scottish Family Party, which was unsurprising. And then once the election had run its course, the dominant share of the MSPs who got elected were people who had thrown their backing behind our campaign, either in full or in part. So we were well set coming out of the pre-election period, having done that campaigning and like informed voters on where things were going and how many of their candidates were supporting our campaign, to then go from that into the nitty-gritty of actually taking that forwards in Parliament.
Brilliant. No, that I mean, like that alone is a massive achievement, especially getting all like, I mean, the outreach to individual candidates. I can only imagine how long that took.
A lot of emails, so many emails.
A lot of emails, a lot of work, and honestly, a lot of support from our friends and people who are interested in the cause as well. You know, directly contacting their own MSPs and candidates and asking them. It was definitely a group effort. And then, you know, after that, the petition was taken up by the Equality, Human Rights and Civil Justice Committee, and they did evidence sessions and did private sessions to hear from conversion therapy survivors. And they also did rounds of public evidence sessions with LGBT orgs, with human rights orgs, with foreign legislative experts, religious groups that were in favor of a ban, and religious groups that were against a ban. And that was just a huge amount of work that the committee did. And these evidence sessions went on for quite a while. And then the committee report came back calling for a full ban that was trans inclusive and had no exemptions, which is quite different to what we were seeing going on down in Westminster, where there was a lot of wavering over whether it was going to be inclusive, whether there were going to be a lot of loopholes, and then kind of getting scrapped altogether. And then after the committee did their work, the Scottish government took up the ban and gave it the work on the ban and gave it official backing. They launched an expert advisory group that then gathered evidence from people with lived experience, again, human rights orgs, LGBT orgs, psychologists, the NHS, and LGBT supportive religious leaders. And then they spent time going over definitions and the purpose of the ban. That was most of this year. And then they reported back in September with, again, very strong support for a thorough, inclusive ban that's going to be trans inclusive and no loopholes. So the work has been done. And yeah, Tristan, do you want to take on what's kind of going to happen after that?
Yeah, and like what happens after that is heavily informed by the evidence that came forwards from that. And anyone who's interested can find that online. So you can find all of the committee evidence session videos on the Scottish Parliament website, and you can find the full report back from the expert advisory group on the Scottish Government website. What we've got coming up is basically the move towards a piece of legislation. So the Scottish Government has taken this on. They've had the expert advisory group report back. What's happening at the moment is basically they've got their hands full with GRA reform and some other human rights-based legislation. But we expect them to start on the ECT stuff shortly after that. And if they do go ahead with everything the expert advisory group has recommended, that is going to be one of the most progressive pieces of LGBT positive legislation we've seen anywhere. The stuff that came back from the expert advisory group was genuinely pretty mind-blowing, to the point that it went far further than what our campaign had actually been calling for. And if it got brought forward as legislation, it would basically put us in a position where society's tolerance for homophobia and transphobia would be fundamentally changed. This legislation could make an enormous difference to the capacity for homophobic and transphobic groups to organize and push their ideology on LGBT people. which is more than we were hoping for. We were hoping for a thorough, inclusive, and impactful ban that actually delivered exactly what we were calling for. This would go further and actually make it incredibly difficult for homophobic and transphobic organizations to promote themselves in a way that oppresses LGBT people, especially LGBT youth.
Wow.
So we're expecting to see a draft bill being put together on that coming forwards early next year. So we're talking first quarter, maybe second quarter next year. And if that's the case, then we should see the bill itself being brought to Parliament in 2023, which means that it will definitely be finished off during this parliamentary term, which is what we needed. We needed to make sure that we didn't end up having another election on our shoulders where we were having to fight yet again to bring all the candidates and potential MSPs on side. We know there's a majority in the Parliament for a thorough ban. We know that we've got a lot of pledges from MSPs that they will find it difficult to walk back on, even if they wanted to politically. And being in that position with the expert advisory group coming forward with this strong piece of advice for what legislation could look like puts us in a really strong position.
No, that sounds fantastic. I mean, like, maybe could you go into a wee bit of detail in regards to like the actual content, as in like what the recommendations are? I think there'd be quite a lot of people in chat quite interested in that, if that's something you can share.
Yeah, let me just bring up the actual. I will post the link in chat because that will be useful for anyone who wants to go into it in a bit more detail. You can see from the people who were involved in putting it together that it was always going to be a pretty good piece of advice for the government. And it should put some people's minds at ease just how many religious groups were involved in it. People from like the Church of Scotland and the Metropolitan Community Church. And they signed off on a piece of advice quite this strong.
That's cool. The link's blocked because like just as a safety precaution for the stream. But don't worry, our mods will grab it and then we'll sort it. So
okay. Calling on all mods. Please give me power.
If you can post it in the Discord, one of the mods will chuck it in the chat.
Yeah.
Cheers.
On it.
It was like the one thing that me and Keith actually had a debate over this. Where like, should we allow people to post links? And it's like, well, we don't want to be like brigaded by some wrong uns. So that's a good question from Sarah in the chat. A question for Tristan then. Do you think there's a risk that Westminster will try and block this like they did with the Rights of the Child legislation?
I don't really think that's likely. The thing with the Rights of the Child legislation is that what they were able to block was we were basically trying to incorporate a UN treaty into the body of law in a way that had implications for reserved matters, and that's what they argued to get that blocked. I don't think that's the case with conversion therapy. Basically, everything that the bill is trying to do is within devolved powers. If they tried to block it, it would be like the way they are threatening to block the GRR bill. It's posturing. It's not something that's actually likely to legally stand like the Rights of the Child did.
Cool. No, thanks for that. Yeah, so...
I don't know if you want to weigh on that, Tristan.
So, yeah, I think that's exactly right. So the areas in which the advice went further than expected. Sorry, I've got to share another link just to make sure people have got correct access to it.
That's all right.
So in the definitions for what they published as the definitions that should be used for the legislation, it listed three things as things that would be like areas in which conversion therapy would be considered to be conversion therapy. One of which would be to change. So these kind of like verbs that describe what would someone be doing to commit conversion therapy. So to change is practices that seek to alter or modify a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, expression of sexual identity or gender expression. Then to suppress which is practices that seek to put an end to, restrain, or prevent the development or manifestation of someone's sexual orientation, gender identity, expression of sexual orientation, or gender expression, and to inhibit. So practices that seek to hinder, restrain, prevent, or prohibit a person's sexual orientation, gender identity, expression, or sexual orientation and/or gender expression. They repeat themselves a little bit because they're making sure they're covering all bases.
Yeah, no, that's kind of legal bill kind of recommendation type stuff, isn't it?
Exactly.
Just absolutely
and
explicit.
what essentially does is, if this legislation came forward with those kind of definitions, we'd be putting ourselves on a significantly different tangent from what we're seeing in both Scotland and especially in England, and even more extensively in the US, where kids being able to express themselves, their sexual identity, or especially gender identity, in a way that's frowned on by adults is being forcibly suppressed in schools. They're being told, no, you can't even socially transition in a school setting, or if you do, we'll dob you into your parents. And it's pretty clear from these definitions that would be considered to be conversion therapy under these definitions. It would be using threat to some form of threat or coercion to force people to not express their gender identity.
Which could be applied quite broadly in regards to what transphobic groups try and do, right?
Exactly. That's part of what's so powerful about this.
Yeah.
And the second part that we found especially strong, so that like the whole thing is really worth reading. But the second thing that is especially strong is the stuff about the legislation of how they'd actually enforce it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the parts around enforcing it is based on the intent, which we thought was important, because it means that someone can't just say, oh, well, I didn't actually manage to change their sexual orientation. It wouldn't be a defense. If the intent in the situation was to suppress their sexual orientation or their expression of it, then that would count.
Yep.
And it also means that it's a defense against the claim by various queerphobic groups that sorry, getting my words mixed up as I'm trying to read at the same time. It's a defense against the claim that there should be a ban on all forms of therapy, which is something they continually attempt to claim. And it makes clear that no, that like if a psychologist is going to a setting where they are supporting a LGBT person in exploring their identity or the expression of their identity, as long as they don't go into that situation with the intent to change their identity, they are not at risk of being under criminal prosecution for delivering therapy. It's pretty clear that the only people who would be committing conversion therapy and would be prosecuted under this kind of stuff are people who have that intent, who are attempting to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity.
I find it. Sorry, go on, Aaron.
I was just going to say, I also think it's really important that they're using the word suppress and inhibit as well, because there are conversion therapy groups out there that say, oh, well, we're not trying to change a person's sexuality because you can't do that, but what we're trying to do is just teach them that it is unacceptable for them to act on it, which that is a form of conversion therapy, trying to tell LGBT people that they have to remain celibate their whole lives. So I'm really happy to see that suppress and inhibit are words that are being used there in addition to change.
No, that's a really good point, because like 100%, that's something. It's like I don't want to say it's more sinister, because it's like all kind of conversion like kind of practices are like the same level of evil, but like I think there's a kind of like insidiousness with the like, oh, we're not trying to actually change, we're just trying to make them like suppress it down, like sorry, go ahead.
We saw under Boris Johnson's government that the attempts by the Westminster Tories to basically reframe conversion therapy as something that you can consent to. It's pretty clear that you can't consent, both because it's a form of abuse, you can't consent to abuse, and also because you can't consent to something which is proven not to work. It's proven that conversion practices don't actually change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity, and therefore you can't have informed consent to them. And secondly, the idea that it should only be considered conversion therapy if it's violent. That was something they were also attempting. And some people's image of conversion practices when they hear about them is men in white trench coats and electroshock chairs.
Yeah.
And although that has and does exist, it is a distinct minority of the cases of conversion practices that people actually suffer from. The vast majority is inflicted on them by community leaders, family circles, and even in their own homes, by people that they should trust and who should care about them. And that is especially insidious because it puts them in a position where if they try and escape that abuse, they are also cutting themselves off from everything and everyone that's close to them. And that puts them in an extraordinarily vulnerable position. And these measures would both recognize that that is conversion therapy, but will also ensure that there is targeted support for people that we know are in quite isolated communities and are most at risk of these practices.
No, that's like it's hold on, I had a thought in my mind there. No, wait, yeah. So, it was I'm not sure if you were here earlier in the stream, but the CEO of Galop was talking about the kind of conversion therapy practices that you see like here in the UK, and I think like as you were kind of saying there, a lot of them, like the mental association with what conversion therapy is your kind of like conversion therapy camps. And like Lenny, CEO of Galop, was saying, like, you know, we're kind of got this like. We've got this idea of kind of like, you know, pray the gay away type, like practices that exist and they seem to be very like US based. But like, as you were saying there, a lot of the time here it's like, it's family and it's like family in a, hold on, I think I'm just about to be eaten by a tiger. Shit. Yep, I just got fucked. Fuck's sake. Sorry. Well, that's annoying.
I don't really understand what happened. I don't think your character was even on screen and you died.
Yeah, I was actually sleeping. That was the problem. I was sleeping, and normally when you sleep in this game, oh, I'm just getting munched on. Great. Normally when you sleep in this game, you wake up and then you have to like immediately react. That didn't let me immediately react. That just straight up killed me. Okay, that's all fine. And now the children are just lost. Sorry. Totally sidetracked because I got ate by a tiger. My bad. Oh shit, there's the tiger there. Fuck. Sorry, please continue. Ignore what I was saying, but yeah, it was sorry. It was just about the way that conversion therapy kind of shows its face here, in a kind of horrible like light. And again, it's that kind of like underhanded conversion therapy that. Like, there's a lot of, like, family involvement or, like, community kind of, like, not allowing it. I think one of the things that Lenny also said was that there's, like, been some cases of, like, people getting kind of, like, arranged, like, straight marriaged. Like, that's a practice as well. So, yeah, it was just some of the things that Lenny was touching on at the start of the stream.
And I think it kind of touches on why exactly Galop is so incredibly important, is both because they have all the research. They're the people who we drew on for all the data that we needed to bring MSPs on side. And secondly, just the amount of work that they do to support people who are going through conversion practices. We often get people coming to us either directly or indirectly asking for support because they have gone through these practices. And we as a campaign team are not trained, ready to support people who've been through conversion practices. We do not have that expertise. So having Galop there and being able to give the support that these people need and point them in the right direction to people who can give them longer term support as they try to escape these really difficult situations that they could be really isolated in is incredibly important work. And it's why streams like this that are raising money for the kind of work that they do is really important. And please, anyone who's listening to this, if you've just been on the edge of pressing the donate button, please go ahead, get over that 1,500 mark.
We're really close.
Help support people who are in really difficult positions and need the support.
No, thanks very much for that, Tristan. I mean, like, we've got a question in chat for you both. Is like, what do you say about people saying that if teachers didn't tell parents about their children's desire to transition, then it opens the door to grooming by teachers? Which is obviously...
Dear Lord above.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a conspiracy theory.
It's I think it's the question's proposing, like, how do you answer someone who's being that preposterous?
Well, the position that people are put in where they are forced to turn to a single person for support with their identity is what puts people at risk of grooming. If there is a shame wrapped up with that identity, and that is something that is furthered by conversion practices and furthered by parents who do not accept their children's sexual identity or gender identity. When they turn to a single teacher as their only form of support, that puts them in a risky position. Putting our school system in a position where it's capable of supporting all children who have who are LGBT and have support needs, where it's putting us in a position where they have multiple places that they can turn to, and they have an ability to express themselves publicly with other kids in their year group, with the support of teachers who've been trained to support LGBT kids. That significantly reduces the threat there is from single predatory individuals, whether they be teachers or family. If you put kids in a position where they're having to hide themselves and they're struggling with that, then it puts them at a significantly higher risk of that kind of predatory behavior. So it's not like we're saying train up one teacher at the school that all these kids have to rely on. What we're saying is put kids in a position where they no longer have to feel shame for who they are and feel like they can do so openly. And that can mean they can come out to their parents in their own time. Especially if they have parents who actively show disdain for those identities or would suppress those identities. The only way to put them at the minimum possible risk of exploitation is to allow them to explore their identities with support from the whole school without that threat hanging over them.
Oh, okay, sorry. I agree with you there, Tristan, and yet when I posted on Twitter not long ago about this, right parents do not out their children, you came under heavy fire, was the point they were all saying to me and berating me for saying teachers shouldn't be telling parents. Yeah, I mean, like, that's something that's kind of come up, like, quite a lot. I mean, to be honest, I find the majority of, like, kind of... It's the same... I don't know, it just seems to be, like, the very same thought process surrounding, I don't know, people talking about, like, so heavily focused on, like, I don't know, bathrooms. It seems like the same thing. It's like they pick one issue and then talk about how it can be abused. And, I mean, the reality is, as you've kind of just went and said, Tristan, where the fuck are all my people going? Like, I'm trying to say that it's like what you've just kind of covered in regards to, like, it's actually the fact it's not safe is putting people in... Sorry, I'm fucking up my language here, my words.
11 hours in.
Yeah, I know, 11 hours in. And it's only gonna get worse from here, more downhill. What I'm saying is that what you were saying there with regards to it's almost like the lack of acceptance from the parents and from the wider community puts individuals at risk. And I think that there's people particularly who are transphobic and extremely online that they literally just exist to agonize, irritate people and be aggressive. and like to do so, what they end up doing is just constantly wiggling. Like they just constantly shift the goalposts. So you could give them a perfect, clear-cut answer when it comes to the issue that you're talking about, Flaming Daphne, and they would pivot the goalpost slightly, and they would give you a shit, like, they'd give you more questions that change it ever so slightly, which then you adjust your it's sea lining arguments. Basically, it's something that unfortunately the right online are very good at.
Yeah, and I think I've come across a lot of that in my wider work, especially on Twitter. But also, I think Erin, you might be able to speak more directly to this from your experiences working with the marginalised community groups in the ASMP.
I mean, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said that, like, when children are put in a position where they don't have a strong network of people that they can rely on, and that they can trust, that is what's going to put them at risk. And as people in the chat are bringing up, children are at risk when they have actively transphobic parents who they'll be outed to. And this isn't just about what one teacher or one child should be doing in one school. This is about the broader issue of children's rights, about children not, as another person in the chat pointed out, being the property of the parents. Children have individual rights in and of themselves, and one of those is a right to privacy. We have the concept of Galop competence. Children make their own decisions. If we're talking about under 16s, make their own decisions about healthcare, make their own decisions about a number of things, and deciding that they do that without parental consent, and they do that sometimes without informing their parents. And the idea that teachers should be, if they overhear something from a student, or if a student talks to them, should be immediately turning around and telling their parents, that is a violation of the individual's right to privacy and the right to sort of engage with their own identity on their own terms.
No, that's yeah. I think both of you have kind of captured that like perfectly. And I've had while we've been talking, there's been like 3 really good questions that have popped up into my mind, and I wish I'd just fucking written them down because yeah. So apologies.
Just to follow on from what Flaming Daphne said in chat about the people on Twitter coming to bring them under heavy fire for saying that teachers should be telling the parents. What I think you will find a lot of the time with the people who are saying, that like the parents should always know, is that this is being said by people who, if they had kids, would try and stop them from being outwardly LGBT. They look at gay kids, trans kids, and they get an ick feeling, and they find it horrifying that kids would just be allowed to do that when their parents have that sense of ick. They are just homophobes and transphobes. There isn't any more spinning to be done with it. And your best option in those circumstances is just to block them, because you're never going to get through to them. When you're talking about the kind of idea of other people's kids having freedoms and stuff, the practical realities of what that does is never going to get through to them, because the only thing they're feeling is a sense of disgust towards LGBT people. And you're better off just blocking them and focusing your efforts elsewhere.
Yeah, I would agree. Just block and move on.
I think block and move on is like, I feel like it's been my mantra for the past 2 years. There's so many.
Someone was horrified to this. I was just like, just block and move on. They were just like, you must have had to block a lot of people. I was like, yeah. I've blocked 180,000 people on Twitter.
What? Really?
Yeah, 180,000 people.
That's
and
amazing.
that puts me in a pretty good, because I've used tools and stuff to focus them, and it puts me in a pretty strong position for when transphobic groups want to brigade me with some harassment group or whatever. Yeah. The kind of terminally online transphobic crowd who their entire existence is wedded to how many people they can sick on someone on Twitter.
Yeah.
And if you've got like 95% of them blocked, the few who do get through end up very isolated, and they don't know how to handle that, and they quickly back down. The only way they're capable of carrying out these like harassment attacks is if there's hundreds of them, and whoever they're attacking cannot focus enough to actually answer them because they're too busy being buried in abuse. So yeah, my advice is block and move on, because the fewer of them can reach you, the harder it is for those who can to do anything that could actually harm you, bring you mental anguish, or like, harm the people who are also your followers.
Sorry, I've just realised I've absolutely fucked up here. Shit. Why are you all following me? So all of the apes are following. What the fuck? Ah, God. Sorry. I think like
this is an excellent demonstration of what we mean by the fact they have a herd mentality, and they just follow a leader around. They don't really know what they're doing.
Oh God, no! This is the worst. I didn't even ask them to. Shit. I'm never being a monkey leader ever again. What I was gonna say was it was actually kind of on something that I'd mentioned earlier, but like particularly when it comes to like tactics of like transphobes and like alt-right groups or like whatever they are, there tends to be a lot of like just astroturfing, and like so many of them have several accounts, right, without fail, right, and it's like it's one of the things that I think when I was on Tumblr the other day, I was getting like abuse via my asks. I was getting like shit in my asks, and it like Tumblr allows you to block a person who sends an anonymous ask, and doing so will remove all of the messages they've ever sent you. And I did it, and like 40 asks just like straight up disappeared. It was like the one person, and they were pretending to be multiple people, all trying to dogpile me in my asks, and it was like I blocked one, and like I'm not joking, 40 asks disappeared. It's amazing the amount of
Left
time
left
they
to my own
have.
device. Yeah, if speaking of time, if you gave me enough time, I could speak about how transphobic groups organise on the internet for literal hours. But yeah, we've come across it because you'll notice if you go into the committee hearings from the various religious groups who oppose conversion therapies, the videos that were aired on it, only half of them were Scottish. They had to import homophobic groups from outside Scotland in order to provide a full bench of people who would oppose a conversion therapy ban. And the amount of transphobic organisations, especially in Scotland, which are literally just one person with a Twitter account, which is especially obvious when that one person develops personal grudges with various LGBT people on Twitter and spend their entire Twitter presence just having fights with those people they have grudges with.
It's very obvious. Like I think the most obvious one's that for women Scotland. Definitely one person with an account. There's no group behind that at all. It's amazing that like I mean we've seen them quoted in newspapers and shit like that. It's kind of baffling that has been allowed to just kind of like sit there. Journalistic integrity is something.
Yes,
I like
for
to
chat.
complain about.
One of them was from Northern Ireland. The other one was American.
Does make you kind of worry about who's like funding this, because like they do seem to have like lots of
They don't. So back in what the thesis is that this was caused by a lot of money being flooded in 2017, 2018 after the Republicans lost the 2016 election, and they didn't really know what to do. Sorry, after the Republicans won the 2016 election, and but they just lost the equal marriage fight, and they didn't know how to come back from it. And they didn't know quite what to do with themselves after that. And the thesis is they flooded money into the UK and especially Scotland because it's a small but relatively culturally similar market, which is easily dominated by small amounts of money, compared to the US market, which costs literally hundreds of millions, even on a statewide campaign.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression that it's like they they start shit in the US and then they export it, so it picks up some degree of traction in the UK just from the amount of money they actually spend on it, and then they use the UK as the example to then point back to when they're
and
making the
also
case in the
they can
US.
take lessons learned. Like they spent a small amount of money getting into the UK market, especially the Scottish market, and they had a huge amount of success. They managed to embed transphobia as the new culture war fight. And they then took that back to the US, and we can see how that's going now. And the timings are too close for it to be a coincidence. The fact they lost the Equal Marriage Act, suddenly transphobia took off in the UK, and then the moment that the money involved in transphobia in the UK seemed to die off is exactly when things took off in the US, and they started bringing in anti-trans school bans, anti-trans sports bans, and Fox News really started going all in on transphobia. It was all timed far too coincidentally for it to be a coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we were chatting about earlier as well, I think with Kate Montgomery, was like the weird thing is that it doesn't the midterm results kind of show that it didn't really land. Like that they kind of went all out on culture war stuff in the US, and you know the Republicans didn't perform the way they were kind of expected to, which I find quite interesting. Because they really did. They went hard on culture war stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, super hard, and it's potentially getting even harder now that we've got a Ron DeSantis potentially setting up to run, because his entire thing is being a more effective voice on the culture war issue than Trump is. Trump's too easily distracted by his own ego and insecurity. And I think that, unfortunately, that's the way we can see things headed. And that's why getting GRA reform through, getting an end conversion therapy ban through in the next couple of years is so important, to make sure that that can't get traction here as well.
Yeah, does it protect it, you know? No, that's a very good point. And like on the end conversion therapy legislation, you said Q1, Q2 is like how. I'm guessing there's only so much legislation that the government can or the parliament can focus on at a time. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
is that why they can't do these things simultaneously, or?
To an extent, yeah, but we only had the expert group come back in September.
No,
so turning around, it takes 6 months to write a draft bill on something this complicated. So GRA reform we're expecting will be done by Christmas, I think. Erin, am I right?
That's what I have been told.
That'll be a good Christmas present.
Yeah, it would
Very
be
good Christmas present.
Yeah, great Christmas present to finally have that off the plate. Though we've already seen some transphobic courts basically winding down. One of them admitting today that they're out of money and they're not planning to do any more crowdfunding.
Oh, which one's that?
Murray Blackburn Mackenzie. The
with
respect.
Sorry, is this the shitty think tank?
Yeah, the fake legal think tank. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's funny. Sorry,
apparently they're done, and they always market themselves as kind of the respectable face of transphobia, and I think they're at a point now that they've lost the GRA fight, and their only options open to them are to shut down or to double down on the full-born conspiracy fear-mongering around drag story times, and they have a bit too much investment in their respectability to do that, whereas some other transphobic groups will just go in for it.
That is I'm sorry, I'm so glad to see the fucking back of that. I hated that. It was the most obvious set up to be the reasonable. I hated it. I absolutely despised that group. So kind of get it up them. Also, someone's just donated £100, which puts us so close. We're £4 off our goal.
Go on, who's willing to put in £4 before Ellen and I log off?
And whoever just put in the 100, you're anonymous, which means that I can't write your name unless you want anonymous written on my face. I mean, I can do that if you want.
It might come across a bit internet conspiracy theory.
We
Yeah,
are Legion.
Oh, that's some flashbacks to 2010.
I was going to say, I would
yeah.
rather the 2010 4chan anonymous than the current anon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there was times where, you know, some of it could be amusing. The reality is 2022, not so much.
I once in real life stumbled across one of their Scientology protests.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Is that a protest for Scientology?
Oh
or
gosh, no, this is
anti-
old internet lore. Anonymous, the like 4chan Anonymous. One of the
Right.
first things they ever did was start protesting outside of Scientology centers. They called it
Okay.
Operation Clambake. And I happened to have a Scientology center like on my commute to my university at that point, and I accidentally stumbled across. They're like standing outside with like speakers playing like rickrolling the Scientology center.
It's funny, like I've always like, obviously there's the one just by the Tron Kirk, in Edinburgh, the Scientology Centre. It's like it's always advertising like a free personality test. And I've never seen anyone in it or like go in it or be in it or come out of it. I don't think anyone ever comes out of it, but it's weird that it's just like there.
Hey, Hex did it. We hit 1500.
Oh, nice. Shit, I don't know what the 1,500 goal was. What's the milestone?
Almost 12 hours down, and I is just losing touch with reality.
Oh, I'm gone, mate. This is like, it's all downhill from here. It's been downhill since about 6 hours in. But no, that's it. I mean, no, it's not the maid outfit. The maid outfit, you're gonna have to work for that, I'm afraid, guys.
What? Isn't Hex already on your face as well?
Yeah, Hex is written on my face. Yeah. Hex is on my face. There we go. Right, I'm gonna extend this. Kirstine, how you doing?
I am going to tap out because I'll be back later.
Yeah.
Have fun, folks.
No worries at all. Erin, of course, you're welcome to either stay on or you can come back later as well, but if you need to clock out, that's absolutely fine.
I am in Aviemore on holiday, so.
Well, in that case, thank you very much. Yeah, I forgot you mentioned that. In that case, get lost. Go and enjoy your holiday.
Yeah, go enjoy holidays, right? There has to be some rest time.
Yes,
Indeed.
absolutely.
Thanks very much, everyone. I'll chat to anyone who's still awake at like 3.
Cool. See you then, Tristan. Thanks for that. Hi, Kirstine. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you at this point?
You're
Are you hanging in there?
You're looking at me while I've got like faded cat whiskers and a bunch of people's names drawn on my face.
Yeah, I mean, I've got you on the stream, and I'll be honest, you look like you're about to go into crisis.
Oh, I'm knackered, but I'm good knackered, which is fine. I'm just very very tired, but we'll get there. We've only got like 12 hours and 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go. Not that I'm
You're an
counting.
absolute trooper.
Yeah, I'll rest when I'm dead. But
yeah, if everyone's like, yeah, I'm gonna do a Twitch 24-hour charity stream, and then you do it, and you're like, why? Why am I doing this to myself?
I think what I'm realizing is that like as the years get slightly like more, I'm now struggling. I'm struggling more. I was so young and fresh when I was doing the Hollow Knight stream, and that was only a year ago. Now I'm slowly decaying. But anyway, would you like to introduce yourself to the chat?
Hello, I'm Kirstine Fraser. I'm the SNP's Equalities Convener, and I'm also University of Glasgow Unison's Equality Officer as well. So, pretty big part of my life. And the reason I mention that is because obviously, if anyone follows me, like they seem to get trade unions and the working class and everything in full blast. So So yeah,
No,
in between
that's
Resident Evil and Final Fantasy memes, you know, it's a bit of a strange mix.
Oh, is that your games of choice?
Yeah, I mean, I've not actually played a video game in quite some time, because the other thing as well is all those activities I'm retraining to be a counsellor, so it was actually quite fortuitous timing to kind of be coming on after Tristan and Erin, because that's a big part of my professional working life in the future. I am not 26. I just saw the chat there and I'm like, I'm sorry, that's like warp light years away, you know, past for me. Like
Yeah, no, as people are guessing my age, even though they know, they should know. Yeah, everyone. I'm 26. I know. I have to keep on admitting it like it's some sort of hidden secret. Anyway, Kirsten, I've got an icebreaker question that I'm asking pretty much everyone, and that one is, what is something that you've done this year that you're proud of, and what is something that you would like to do next year?
I think the thing that I'm really kind of proud of this year is actually kind of my activism in the trade union movement the most this year. So obviously it's been like hot strike summer and we're moving into hot strike winter at the moment, but I think kind of one of the things that I'm really proud of is actually having a successful strike action. Like for anyone who knows, because like I'm not worried about out myself, to be honest. Everyone knows where I work and I've been in the media about it, but work at the University of Glasgow, obviously very, very active there, but actually securing a kind of really good pay deal for some of the lowest paid people at the university and the city itself. You know, we got a 12.9% pay rise for like the lowest paid workers at the University of Glasgow, and just
That's a great
seeing
result.
just seeing the difference it makes for people. Just, I mean, don't get me wrong, like there has been a lot of wage stagnation for, I think, for everyone, but particularly in the higher education sector. You know, it's been really, really pronounced, and it's just something that politics can be quite slow. You know,
Oh hell yeah!
as we know from gender recognition reform and getting action on kind of conversion practices, politics can be a really slow glacial effort at times, and sometimes it's just nice to do something and get a result within 6 months. So that's what I'm most proud of. So for anyone who's kind of in the chat and everything, I'm kind of like watching your comments, like support your local picket lines, support, like no matter where you are in the world, there will be trade unions, there will be workers standing up for their rights, fighting for a better workplace. So support them, because I spent basically like a lot of time in a picket line screaming, you know, into a megaphone to students, basically like our working conditions today are going to be theirs tomorrow. So we all do have to come together and fight, you know, for actually a better working environment. There's no point kind of talking about, you know, the well-being kind of economy, like better workplaces. We're going to do mindfulness and talking about people's resilience. Yeah.
I could go on my own rant there. I could.
Well, this is it. You know, the thing that actually makes a difference to people's well-being and how they feel and how secure they feel to everything is how much money they actually have in their pockets. So that was the kind of biggest thing, and just being able to see people as well get that kind of money as well and back pay was just such a kind of, it made it actually feel like, yeah, we've actually achieved something, whereas politics can be a bit of a, right, here we are 6 years later.
No, I mean,
how are we feeling?
It's a really like interesting. But I mean, like for I'm sure some of the chat are aware, but like earlier this year, I lost my job. It was a mixture of a kind of COVID redundancy and, you know, Brexit kind of tipping the scale in the wrong direction. But like the job search to me opened up quite a let's just say I became very clued into, like, based on what benefits the company was offering, what was actually kind of legit and what wasn't. Because one of the things that seemed to be pretty common across the board was, like, companies kind of championing the most, like, mediocre kind of benefits. Like,
Yeah.
like access to a mindfulness app, right? Which is fine if it's a nice thing that you do on top, but like it, like that, but the pay being like a lot less than what was like expected. It seemed to be the kind of the norm, if you get me.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the things that really does have to be kind of called out to employers is the reality is what probably brings your staff down the most is working conditions and pay. So it's actually within, you know, to be brutal about it, what actually promotes loyalty as opposed to kind of like any company and people want to do a good job and do well is if actually their company or organization or whatever takes decent care of them, actually, like, you know, shock horror actually gives a shit about them and actually makes sure they're able to survive on their wage. You know, I've been watching with kind of some amusement, some controversy about like someone has a side income on OnlyFans or Twitch and or
Yeah.
Etsy, you know, and it's just like, oh,
There was a hell of a lot of pedal clutching. I saw that it was it was the big story that's now hit national news because I think the New York Post picked it up was a teacher that had an OnlyFans,
yeah.
which the parents somehow found. I was always curious at how the parents ended up finding it, but it like the whole point was, you know, like that was supplemental income because the wage that she was on wasn't allowing her to live her life. And I don't know, I think like I feel like for stuff like that you should always have a kind of raised eyebrow when you see, like, I mean, the fact that it was like the STV put her full name and her OnlyFans and everything up for everyone to see, I was kind of like, ugh, that's not really how
it's the strain that has on a person. It's not like she's sat there and kind of went, you know what, I'm going to be like really in the face of everyone, you know. And even if she was, that doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, she's still a person, a human being.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I work as well, kind of with student teachers and kind of having to kind of warn them as well that, yeah, if you're, you know, you need to watch because some people are spectacularly petty out there, and they will absolutely try and dig stuff up on you, and it's ridiculous the levels people will go to, but you know, you kind of have to look after yourself and kind of watch out, which is not exactly, you know, a positive. But yeah, I've just been very kind of bemused by the state of affairs of, I don't know, like the Scotland's very strong and persistent paternalistic streak coming out.
Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, I'm wondering if you could maybe actually delve into people who maybe don't know much about trade unions. I'm wondering if you can maybe give a kind of introduction to, I mean, I dare say that there's a lot of people in chat that are part of unions and are paid up members and all the rest, but in regards to the work that unions do, particularly some of the stuff that you've been doing on picket lines and things like that, maybe you can touch on it a little bit more if that's okay.
Yeah. Well, first things first, I'm going to say absolutely support everyone saying don't forget to join a union and support trade unions. Absolutely do that. I think kind of one of the kind of key examples that I always kind of go to when trying to explain the power of trade unions is I think there's a lot of power in people being aware of the actual, you know, strength and power that they have when they decide to unify and fight for a kind of common cause, if that makes sense. Because the kind of description that we always kind of give in the kind of trade union movement, and I say this as well as someone who's a member of a political party and has, you know, challenges in government and everything, but trade unions are democratic organisations made up of, I assure everyone who's listening, very ordinary people, just trying to make sure that they can earn a living, that they are able to do it safely, that it's inclusive, that it's supportive of them, that there's actually opportunities to progress, that it's family friendly. You know, it's the whole kind of stretch of kind of like what actually it means to have a quality of life. And I think that's really important in the 21st century, where you see situations where people are literally getting run ragged in warehouses, you know, like Amazon kind of distribution centers, are constantly getting pushed to kind of, you know, be more efficient, to modernize, to eke more out of themselves. And it's such a destructive process for the individual, for that person. It's totally dehumanizing as well. So I think for me, trade unionism is about understanding that every single person has hopes, dreams, and aspirations of their own, and recognizing that they will all have individual things they want to do, but actually coming together as a collective to protect that. It's it's not about what kind of the, you know, the red top kind of media or your Murdochs or Daily Mails or whatever kind of say about it. It's not about greed. It's about understanding that everyone wants to have a good life, to have nice things, to actually, you know, feel safe in their workplace, to feel kind of actually empowered in their workplace, and that they have a stake in it, not be treated like shit and get kicked around, which is what happens in many workplaces. You know, and we've seen that as well. Obviously, kind of very much so over the course of COVID, with P&O, fire and rehire, and just this constant kind of race to the bottom, which has been exacerbated by, you know, in my personal opinion, by Brexit and the kind of drive to kind of like everything European is bad, you know, everything pro-worker is bad, like this is all in our way. It's not. So basically, you know, I'm very pro trade union because I think there's too much power, and that has been placed in the hands of bosses and employers in the UK by successive Tory governments, and enabled to a certain extent as well by Labour governments who've been, you know, not exactly fast to push back against anti-trade union legislation. But people need to realise the power that they have, and we can, you know, bring forward great change quite quickly. But sometimes it's difficult to kind of make everyone realise they do have a shared goal. That was a lot of talking. I do apologise.
No,
I
that's
feel like I should get my soapbox.
that's absolutely fine. If anything, it allows me to rest my voice, but it's also like really informative because I think like there's been quite a lot of good chat happening in regards to like, you know, unions beyond workers' unions, like, you know, tenants' unions and things like that, that people can get behind, in the kind of collective bargaining that, you know, when it comes to like landlords and stuff. So that's been really good to see in chat too. I suppose, like, I mean, I think one of the things that kind of, there's probably a lot of crossover when it comes to, like, trade unions, is, like, there's an intersection, like, hold on, let me get this right, intersectionality when it comes to the work that trade unions do. And the kind of crossover with that with a charity like Galop is, like, kind of self-evident. We've been talking a lot today about the kind of intersectionality and how, you know, people come from different backgrounds, like cultural backgrounds as well, that may have different opinions about, you know, whether it's conversion therapy, or there might be cultural aspects to joining a trade union. I'm not entirely sure of them if there are, but there might be. So maybe you could speak a wee bit about like the intersectionality side of things when it comes to that, because I think, you know, trade unions, obviously, for anyone who's seen Pride, you'll know that there's a lot of intersectionality there. But yeah, I wonder if you can maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing to kind of remember as well is that trade unions are probably one of the most active forces in civil society, in civic society, that push for change in kind of equalities legislation and being supportive of the, particularly the LGBT movement. Like my own union as well, like Unison, before it kind of became Unison, was one of the biggest fighters against Section 28 in the UK, and that started well into the 80s, and they really pushed back against what was the evils of Section 28.
Yeah.
And even now, like, I'm really kind of proud of the work that they do when it comes to kind of trans equality, because they're really pushing things forward and actually having the discussions that need to be had about how we actually support trans people in the workplace. You know, how do we actually support this community that is really, really under fire from all kind of corners as part of this absolutely phony smokescreen culture war that the Tories have cultivated here in the UK. It's been quite convenient for them, but it's a way that they always use that to distract from political failures, if that makes sense. So as a movement, I would say that trade unionism is a positive one for supporting people who need that help, particularly in the LGBT community. Making sure that we protect the rights, you know, of people not to be discriminated, to not be harassed, to not be assaulted in the workplace. These are all trade union issues. And if most branches these days have LGBTQI inclusive kind of officers, and, you know, have conferences to push forward, you know, the needs of the LGBT community. So I think it's absolutely kind of intrinsically linked. I don't think there's any kind of, you know, oh right, well there's no separation, if that makes sense. You know, the interests of the LGBT kind of community are the same as the trade union movement, of seeing the person, seeing the human being, and supporting them and protecting them and making sure that we're doing everything to make sure that everyone can just live their life peacefully, free from fear, and just have a good life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm active as, you know, a trade unionist. It's why, you know, after quite a long break, I kind of went back to politics, and became, you know, ran to be elected as the equalities convener. But it's just the basic kind of aspects of someone's humanity, that everyone should be free to kind of just live their life. And I think for me, it seems quite shocking to see how much we've regressed in the past, like since 2015 especially. You know, I mean, a lot of stuff's happened, but there are tremendous positives. And to kind of come back to kind of like the kind of question that you kind of asked earlier as well about the hopes for next year. I mean, my hopes for next year is that we turn a corner and all the bigots get, you know, called out for what they are, when actually legislation comes in on gender recognition, you know, reform, on ending conversion practices, on a whole host of other things, and they get shown up for being the utter charlatans that they are.
Yeah, no, like here. I really.
So,
it's gone.
very little is going to change for the vast majority of people, but a lot is going to change for really vulnerable people in our community, who need just a little bit of recognition, as well as how just tough life is at the moment. And that's my hope, and I kind of feel that we're kind of there. Like, I know it's as someone who
yeah. I agree. I feel like we're on the cusp of it. We just need to get a couple of things over the line. I mean, we were talking just there about, you know, hopefully GRA reforms done by Christmas. That gets its third reading and it gets sorted, and then we're on to kind of ending conversion therapy, and then it's almost like there's momentum there. There's like pushback. You know, we can start motoring a little bit there, and hopefully.
I do genuinely feel that we're at this point where people do kind of realise that they have power. I think, like, in the wake of austerity as well, and I know this maybe seems a bit of a kind of stretch, but it is linked to obviously what has happened. You know, I think too is like so many third sector organisations have really had to fight for any funding to do what they do, including organisations like Galop and kind of others that support a whole kind of different range of people who need assistance and support and help and advocacy. But I think just people just felt really, really scunnered by everything, and the pandemic did not help. And I do hope this is us. Like, don't get me wrong, there's things to be, like, we need to keep an eye on this. This is serious. We need to keep an eye on this. But I do think the majority of people are kind of aware that they do kind of have to be on the ball, that they can't be complacent and just want everyone to be able to live peacefully and have a good life. I do think we're finally kind of turning a corner, and I think there's real positives, I think, for kind of like, it's quite obvious I'm probably a millennial at this point, but I do think there's a lot to kind of take kind of heart in with the generation that's kind of coming up behind me. You know, don't get me wrong, there's some serious things that we need to do with
Concerns.
climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, just to be serious, we have some concerns about this whole situation, but there are things to genuinely be positive about and to kind of take strength from.
Yeah.
So I think that would be kind of the thing that I'd kind of say to people, just like, look, there's a lot going on. There's a lot kind of to be gained from cooperation and working together. And I think hopefully it feels like 2023. I might be totally wrong, and then we're sitting there in 2024 and like, Kirsten, you were talking bollocks then, weren't you?
Yeah. But, no, I mean, I think everyone's like, I think it's funny because like the message that's been coming through like quite a lot today has been like, some of us are just fucking knackered. Like we could really do with like a boring political year, you know. Like
Yeah.
maybe one prime minister, if we really have to have one.
Let's just try and not have multiple kind of prime ministers.
Yeah.
All of whom seem to be scraping the barrel.
Oh, definitely.
More and more.
It's been it's just been like an absolutely nagging. Of course, like we're in the middle of kind of cost of living as well. It's just it would be nice to maybe not live as AyeforScotland's putting it in chat. It'd be please let me stop living in interesting times.
Yeah,
it's been.
I know, like that's exactly what it is, you know, and like it's brutal because I think as well, kind of, you look back at kind of what maybe kind of our generation has experienced. Like, I mean, I grew up, you know, kind of in the 90s and 2000s as well, and that was not a great time, you know, for being someone who was very kind of supportive of the LGBT community, because you had the whole absolute shit show with Section 28, and
Yeah.
it seemed like every film had like really transphobic or homophobic kind of jokes, or, you know, really horrible sexualized tropes about kind of bisexual women and kind of lesbians and stuff like that. Just a really horrible time, and I don't see it with the kind of maybe rose tinted specs of some people.
Yeah.
But
no, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but I think we're kind of at a point, you know, as someone who's maybe just like a little bit kind of older and seen some kind of really horrific things that are happening now are absolutely things to be kind of watchful about. But I also think there's things to be positive about, and that people feel actually empowered to call it out, probably in a way that never has happened before. So, and that people are willing to kind of actually, you know, fight back across all different spheres of, you know, civic and political life.
I mean, one thing that I think's like been quite good this year at least is like, particularly with some of the kind of quite large scale like strike action that's been happening, and obviously RMT's kind of like been quite like there's been a lot of attention given to the rail network strikes, and I think it's like I'm seeing at least a lot more kind of like, especially from younger people, it's like it's really quite natural to support striking workers. Like I'm seeing a lot of that kind of like sentiment that's just like, yeah, why wouldn't you support them? Because I think it's like we've kind of got to the point where everyone knows that the people that are at the you know, raking in all the kind of profits and stuff like that, a lot of them are just for want of a better term, bastards, and like kind of people are sick of being put in this kind of like this horrible position of needing to work but having just ridiculous bills. It doesn't matter whether it's, you know, price increases in the supermarket due to Brexit and the import charges, or whether it's you know, the cost of living and energy and, you know, like even fucking petrol and stuff like that. It's just like there's so many individual wee things that are now beginning to stack up that I think people are rightfully kind of getting sick of it. And like where the Tories have maybe went wrong in their bid to try and have this like culture war thing is that like the culture war stuff takes a back seat when you can't put food on the table.
Yeah, like, you know, you can't exactly, you know, when people are kind of worried about, well, how do I feed my kids? How do I heat my home? You know, or I'm worried about my elderly kind of parents or whatever, or just what's happening in the community around them. You know, it's harder to fool people.
Yeah.
But that isn't a kind of invite for complacency. You know, I mean, there are things that we do have to kind of tackle. We do have to tackle the rise in hate crime, because that is an issue. That's something to be kind of worried about. And as a trade unionist, that's something I would kind of back up as someone who is a political activist, or, you know, some people would maybe kind of call a politician. I don't see myself as a politician. Like, weirdly enough, that's something that we do need to seriously address and over the kind of next few years. I think it will get easier once, you know, 2023 is kind of over and done with.
Yeah.
because we're just going to show a lot of people up of like, actually, you just talked a load of mince for basically half a decade and no one cares. But
I think that's the
will
thing,
take
is like
time.
the kind of glacial speed that politics sometimes moves at can be pretty frustrating, and it'd be nice to get to the point where we just start to move a little bit faster, but that only comes with, you know, having the right people in place to move it along a wee bit. Right, I believe we have made it halfway now, and I can't believe we're only halfway right now. Oh my god.
I just want to congratulate you for making it this far.
Yeah, Jesus. I feel like I've already done my 24 hours.
But I just like, I mean, the reason I kind of wanted to kind of just pop my head in and kind of obviously kind of offer my support is I've lost count of the amount of times I've had to signpost people to Galop, particularly over the course of the pandemic,
Right.
because obviously the nature of my work is kind of welfare and support, and this seemed like a good way to kind of pay it forward, if that makes sense, because I think it's a really worthwhile charity and organisation. And when it comes to kind of domestic abuse and violence, I think people really forget about how difficult and kind of complex things are for the LGBT community, and that there are no easy answers, and that, you know, it's something I kind of just wanted to kind of say, like, as someone who has had to direct a lot of people to Galop over the past 3 years in particular, it's a really worthwhile organisation, does a lot of good work, and thank you so much just actually for fundraising for them. I know that sounds like, oh, you know, you're kind of squeeing all over it here, but it's a really worthwhile organisation, so please keep hitting donate. Like,
I mean, put it this way: these streams are only as good as the speakers that join. And like, no, thank you very much for giving up the time, particularly this late at night. It does mean a lot, and I think it's really interesting for everyone in chat that's listening in. So yeah, just thank you very much for your time. It's been great
no worries.
to hear a wee bit more about the work you do.
So good effort. Great
Cheers.
speakers. And yeah, just
No
just
worries.
keep on going. Like,
Yeah,
only another 12 hours to go.
I'll see you in 12 hours time. Or I won't. In fact, I won't, because I'll be asleep by then. But we'll get there.
Join a union, everyone. Join a union of your choice, and thank you.
Thanks very much, Kirstine. Have a good rest of your night.
Cheers.